Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 17th, 2025 regular council meeting for the Village of Yellow Springs. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. And Judy, if you could call the roll.
Indeed. Stokes.
I am here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Tausch.
Here.
Gustafson. Here. Also present Village Manager Johnny Burns, Solicitor Amy Blankenship, and Superintendent of Water and Electric Ben Sparks.
All right, great, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to excuse Councilperson Brown.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Good beans. All righty, announcements. I don't know if we have anyone here especially to do a particular announcement. I was toying around with some ideas. I see flyers and whatnot here, but I will open the dais for anyone who wants to.
Yeah, well, we do have someone special here, but I noticed you said "ooh, nice," and I assume that was about the green agenda.
That too.
So I wanted to compliment that as well. That was a nice, call out to St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have Cole Oberg, who is here, one of our local high school students, to talk about Celebrate Trails Day. So
Great.
Come on up, Cole.
Great.
Hi. Hi, I'm Cole Oberg. I'm a senior at Yellow Springs High School, and I wanted to take the opportunity to tell the council and community about our local Celebrate Trails Day event this year. I'm coordinating it as my senior project, and it's an annual event to help get people to connect over and inform the wider community of the trail access we have here. It's going to be on April 26th from 10 to 2 at the train station, and we're partnering with Rails to Trails Conservancy, Green Cats, the Buckeye Trail Association, Warriors on Wheels, and the Yellow Springs Chamber of Commerce, and the Greene County Public Health has been invited. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Cole.
Thanks, Cole. So that's April 26th for the evening of our Trails celebration.
And I believe this is the 11th consecutive year. We've had quite a few of them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good. Excellent.
And then I had a few other things. Sure. I wanted to make sure to highlight the Village Cafe that's happening. I guess that'll be this Saturday from 1 to 4 at the Presbyterian Church. The focus is on trust and collaboration and communications, and really kind of talking about what our community values are. I think it's going to be a great program. I also was happy to attend the State of the College address at Antioch College, and that was last week. 3 highlights that I thought were good to share were priorities around social services for students, and in particular having a solid relationship with our police department and our community outreach specialists. And they know Florence very well, and she helps students a lot, but I know that that's an area that's well taken care of and is already happening. The other focuses were on the learning hubs, and we think there are some opportunities with the Development Corporation to happen or support that. And the third is around right-sizing the campus, and I know, again, Antioch College has been working with the village, particularly on some of the residential projects that are coming up. So I know Johnny and Meg are on top of that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure that they knew that we wanted to support Antioch College, because like our downtown businesses, that's an institution we don't want to lose. And so I think we'll be having more conversations. Jane's probably going to come to a few meetings in the future and keep us updated on all the great things that are happening.
Excellent.
Community gardens, just to give a plug, there was a letter to the editor. Also, we're highlighting that those are going to be ready for action. The Environmental Commission had budgeted for fencing, and we're going to work on getting that up soon. So we're asking to know by the end of the month, those that are interested. Nancy Grigsby is our lead person, but I know people are calling the village and getting those messages passed on, so easy enough to let us know about that. Earth Day, mark your calendars for April 27th, and we'll be talking more about the program for that soon, but that is going to be up at Antioch College this year. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is just our thoughts going to Mark Carr, who is an alternate on a couple of our village commissions. His wife recently passed, and I know he's really struggling with that, and so just wanted to let him know that we're sending our thoughts.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, so that's what I have.
Wow. Okay, great, Brian, thanks for that. Yeah, I didn't know about Mark.
Yeah.
That's tough. But thanks for that. Johnny, I saw that. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, the Beloved Community Project is hosting a free meal every third Saturday at the Yellow Springs Presbyterian Church from noon to 2.
Okay. Thank you for that, Johnny. All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around things here. Anyone else with any other announcements? All right. Seeing none, we're moving on. Thanks again for everyone's input on there. Consent agenda. We have a couple items on the consent agenda. We've got the minutes of our last meeting, and we have a credit card statement for February. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 3rd regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, that motion has passed. We'll also take a motion and second to approve the credit card statement for the month of February.
So moved.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Can we go ahead and get a second before we go on?
Oh, okay, and then we
So we have-
discuss.
we have-
Okay, I'll second, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, please, thanks.
So, CPIM, Johnny or Judy, what, that's,
That is treasurer stuff, certified public, I cannot remember it off the,
okay. No, so I know it's about investment management, so
Yeah.
it's just one of the affiliations for our treasurer to have?
and their finance director, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just, it was familiar to me, but I hadn't seen it come up before, or didn't remember seeing it.
Is that an annual?
It's ongoing, you have to do training throughout the year.
Great. Cool beans. We got a motion and second. Any other discussion on the credit card statement? All right, all those in favor of approving said statement, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, that motion has passed. Now we're down to a review of the agenda, an opportunity where we take advantage of this time to consider adding things, removing things, or moving things around on our agenda. And I understand we have a request to move our legislation to take what's listed last, Resolution 2025-19. We're going to move that up to the top of public hearings and legislation. Out of convenience for a representative that's here from Brabender. I hope I said that right. So we'll be discussing that as our first piece of legislation. Are there any other?
Yeah, I would like to add, and I'm sorry, that was my error to not get it on the agenda in the first place, but add a draft work session agenda for your work session March 31 to new business, and that's about a 5-minute, should be about a 5-minute item.
All right, anything else? All right. And if there are no concerns about adding that agenda item and moving the resolution ahead, we will accept those changes moving forward unless there's some reason not to. Not saying anything? Okay. So we've got that set. Judy, thank you for helping me stay honest with this in terms of, because I'm liable to forget, even though I do have it marked. Okay, so Oh, so if there's nothing else, with those modifications to the agenda, we will move forward. And at this point, we will open the floor. Gavin, if you would, please, to share with us petitions and communications.
Yeah, the clerk will receive and file the mayor's clerk with the mayor's monthly report, and then Brian Hausch with the MVR PC director's report and committee assignments.
All right. All right. Thank you, Gavin. All right. So we will move on if there's no one needs to highlight anything from those items. So we are now in public hearings and legislation, and as alluded to earlier, we changed the order. So Judy, if we could ask you to please read by title only, Resolution 2025-19.
Yep, this is authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement to join the Ohio Benefits Cooperative Incorporated, OBC, and adopting its bylaws and code of regulations.
All right, can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right. John, you want to introduce this?
Okay, we will get started. We have a representation, or represent from Go and Brabender here today. We got ahead of the game. We was able to get the Anthem's renewal rates because of the way that they do the employees now. We're one over on the new MeWa situation, so it will be a 21% increase for the insurance. So McGowan come back and said, hey, let's look at some different things. We did the form fire again. They come back with a recommendation, and I can let Justin explain the whole insurance. We did talk with him. We got the information from him, but the big thing is we need to be able to join this to be able to take advantage, to be able to bring something back April 21st for council to look at and save us some money.
Okay.
Justin?
Justin, coming up to the mic, identify yourself and tell us all this important information that's going to make our lives more enriched.
Hi, I'm Justin Weedle with McGowan Brabender. I'm a employee benefits consultant, so all I do is health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, all that. Been fortunate to work with you guys, the village, for a little over a year now, but a long-standing relationship with McGowan going back many years. So essentially, exactly like Johnny said, Anthem changed the way that they treat the village due to the number of employees that you have. They count the number of employees a little differently than some other carriers, and so they were going to kick you out of their group, fully insured group policy, onto kind of on your own as a fully insured group. And they rate things differently, so you didn't have the buying power of thousands and thousands of employees inside of Ohio. So what that meant was that 20% increase, which works out to about a $100,000 increase over what you're paying today, right? So like Johnny said, we're not okay with just taking an increase like that. We looked at other options. We shopped around to all the reputable carriers, and what we came back with is the best option, and our recommendation was the Ohio Benefits Cooperative, which is a purchasing cooperative in Southwest Ohio comprised of local governments. So it's only governments. It's a nonprofit corporation. So there is no profit motive, right? Nobody's going to be making money off of you guys buying insurance, at least as far as how we run it, right? That you still have to buy certain services from insurance companies to administer the claims and to rent a network and all these behind-the-scenes things, but essentially there's one less middleman, if you want to think of it that way. So the OBC, as what we call the Ohio Benefits Cooperative, the operations of the plan is managed by McGowan Brabender. I don't manage that personally. I'm more of like an independent consultant to the village. So that's why I was looking at all these other options. But why I think it's a good consideration for the village is it adds stability. The average 10-year renewal in the Ohio Benefits Cooperative is about 5%. And as Johnny said, you guys were facing up to a 20% if you would have continued with a very similar plan, fully insured with Anthem. So our hope is, and we can't guarantee or tell the future, right? But our hope is maybe you just get a 5% every year. That's a little bit lower than market trend nationwide, which is usually 6 to 8%. And if that's the case, it would take 4 years for you guys to get up to the level that you would have been at without joining the OBC. So the network is still Anthem, so the employees will still have that that same experience that they currently have with Anthem. There's other integrated benefits with the Ohio Benefits Cooperative, such as a wellness program, and I know that was really important to the administration here, because now you guys might be able to leverage the size to get some biometric testing or some other challenges with some incentives built in to get employees to buy into the wellness program. So we think it's a really good move for long term. There is an initial commitment for 3 years and an $800 fee just for administration stuff. That's a one-time fee. You won't ever have to pay that $800 again. After the 3 years, if you want to continue, it's at your choice, and you would just sign into like a 2-year ongoing every 2 years. Yeah, we still want to be a part of this. Here's our consent, and it'll carry forward. There's still plan options. You can have a PPO. You can have a high deductible. There's 9 different plan options. We've modeled the one that is most closely in comparison to what you currently have. So we're trying our best to keep things the same. Instead of usually when costs go up, you kind of decrease the value of your insurance plan to kind of offset some of those increases. Well, in this case, I think we're going to make it a little bit better. We're going to add some long-term stability and a little bit of budget relief compared to how it could have been.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
better is better.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Question about the head count that Anthem did.
Sure.
Is that an option that insurance companies have to count one way versus another way?
Kind of. So one is full-time equivalent, and one is ATNE, which I would have to think about what that even means. But yeah, it's just a different way that they take the averages. So the way that Anthem is counting it, they're taking into consideration all your seasonal and part-time and counting all of those almost as their own, whereas the other method would take more of an average, like how many, add up all the hours, divide by 30, because at 30 hours a week is considered a full-time employee for the ACA. So that's the main difference. And it just so happens that Anthem does it in a way that does not benefit you.
Good. Understood. It was intriguing that after making what seems like a big change, I think it is a big change, employees can still access Anthem as the insurer, but would it be a different plan such that the ID cards and whatnot would change?
Yeah, so it'll be a new card. Everybody will get new cards. We should still have time to get those in hand by May 1st. Sometimes, depending on how quickly you can get all the paperwork done, we might have to say, hey guys, you might not get your card on the first day, but we're getting it to you.
Okay.
I believe at this point, based on our timeline, we can still get those cards in hand by the first day of the new plan year.
Okay.
But yeah, Anthem, they should not have any network disruption. The OBC has the purchasing power of, let's call it, 1,600 to 1,800 total employees. You guys will be in the pool, which is 15 employer groups out of the 18 total in the OBC. So 3 other ones are really big, like City of Springfield, City of Sydney, and City of Centerville. They're kind of like on their own. They're in there, but they're on their own. Their performance doesn't affect you. Yours doesn't affect them. But everybody else, the other groups, which I can leave a list with you, I think it might have even been in the agenda.
Yeah.
Hopefully you recognize all of those names, but I bet you all but 2 or 3 are very much Greater Dayton area.
Okay. Yeah, I was happy. I mean, when I wrote a note, Ohio Benefits Corporate, who is in it already? Then I kept reading. And then I found it. So it was reassuring to see the names of municipalities that we're familiar with and know folks in. Okay. I think I have one more question, but I'll come back if I can remember it. Go ahead.
Well, just on this point, so can you explain, so why weren't we part of it before?
Okay. So 2 years ago, I'll go back. Historically, the Ohio Benefits Cooperative was only open to employers with 50 or more employees, and we probably used the other head count that wouldn't work in your favor.
Yep.
But 2 years ago, there was a vote by the board to allow groups under 50 to be considered.
Okay.
So
it's a threshold issue.
yeah.
And then the follow-up that's interrelated is just, so this is basically the biggest pool that we can get honestly, I was a little surprised that there wasn't like a I don't know, like all of the municipalities in the state that are this size working together. Like,
Yeah.
So this is the biggest pool that's available that can make the costs as low as possible?
Well, I don't know if it's the biggest. What I will say is the consortiums in Ohio is a weird environment for consortiums or purchasing groups. There's probably well over 100 consortiums in Ohio, and most of them are county-based. A lot of counties will just be like, hey, I want all the schools in my county to be in our own consortium. There's really no reason it has to be that way. It's just the way it is. It's very fragmented. I think we could probably find you bigger ones, but I think once you get to a certain size, the economies of scale kind of just flatline. You don't get better just because you're bigger necessarily.
Okay.
And what's special about the OBC is how selective they are in admitting groups. So we won't just let in a group that has, multiple chronic conditions, right? So the board of the OBC has a subcommittee called the membership committee, and they reviewed the information that was available to them to figure out, like, is your risk profile
You're saying if we had like more employees at a higher risk, then they might not let us in?
yeah.
My God. I mean, every time I think I've reached the end of how terrible health insurance is, it gets to a new level. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
kind of like
Sorry,
contracted
just-
insurance, right? Like,
Wow.
I guess you could look at it both
Yeah,
ways.
we don't need,
because-
you don't need to comment on that, sorry. That's just the first time I've ever had a reason to say it publicly.
Well, that's a good segue into my question. So so what happens if in 2 years we have significant chronic illness?
Well,
We would be kicked out, right?
I've never heard of a group being kicked out. Now, I've only been there for 6 years, but I have asked that question, and the people that run it have told me that while they've been there running it, they have never kicked a group out. It's really the all for one for all for one mentality in the OBC, and that's why they're a little different than other consortiums. Some consortiums, you get graded on your individual entity performance, right? So say you pay in $1 million of premium, but you guys had $1.5 million of claims. So that'd be a $500,000 deficit for the year just for you, right? So what that would mean in a consortium where they grade you on your own merit would mean you might get a really high renewal. Well, in the OBC, they take everybody, they put them together, and they say, we're going to look at this as one single group all put together.
So they spread out the risk.
Spread it out more. It's
Okay.
more equitable. Every single entity in the OBC pays the same rates. So that's a little different too. Sometimes the rates can be different for every entity. The OBC, you will pay the same rates as Washington Township if you have the same plan design as them.
Okay. And how, with the construction of our current plan to this one, how comparable is it with deductibles, co-payments?
Yeah, great question. The best way to get apples to apples in the insurance world is to do what's called an actuarial value calculation. And all that really means is, out of every dollar that you expect to spend on healthcare, how much does the plan cover, right? So your employees, if they're going to go incur a $100 medical bill, how much will the plan cover? And so we calculated that actuarial value for your current plan with Anthem as it is today, and the OBC plan that is most similar, and it was within 2%, and I think the OBC plan was the one that was 2% better. I didn't bring that calculation, but I remember that there was only a 2% difference, and I think it was in favor of the employees.
Okay, good. And then what is the threshold for a high claim in this plan?
The OBC has a stop loss level of $225,000, I think. So what that means is every employee or every member, so it could be employees or dependents or spouses, covered by your guys' plan, the OBC would pay every dollar up to $225, and then once it gets above that, reinsurance kicks in, and a stop-loss reinsurance company pays everything above that until the end of the year. Okay. So that would be the true high claim. I think we probably internally track them at a lower amount, but once again, they're not talked about at an individual level. It's more like, here's a number, here's a condition, right? But we don't even know what city or village that correlates with necessarily.
And again, so you mentioned that the risk is spread out among the group. So there's no threshold per employer, like if you reach X percentage based off of your premiums, where you might be penalized in a way.
No surcharges or anything like that. But that does happen in other
Right.
situations, yeah.
Okay.
Just
good.
not in the OBC.
Okay, good. Very good.
I'm clear, and I guess the bottom line is this is, a move that makes a whole lot of sense, so.
Great.
Yeah.
And according to the title of the resolution, we're just approving our joining it, which
Correct.
means
Right.
we're going to
And we'll
spend.
get everything, and then we'll come back. We'll be spending $800 to join. They'll package it. We'll bring it back in April to show you the plan.
Okay, all right. Well, there is a resolution on the table. There is a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, the motion is passed.
All
All
right.
right, Justin, thank you.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
All righty. Now, if I can count sideways, we're now going, Judy, if you could read by title only, Resolution 2025-15.
This is approving grant funds to local nonprofit entities for community enrichment events for 2025.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second?
I don't know who starts this.
Oh, I can start it. I mean, if you look through the resolution, we have a sponsorship and grant policy in place that's just proven, as stated, a little bit cumbersome in terms of when we get people turning things in and old habits die hard and all that sort of thing. We also have a very regular group of folks who are requesting funds and a very regular, in very regular amounts. This doesn't mean that they don't still have to fill out those forms and justify the requests. That's good in terms of getting an audit. Those stay on file, but this also lets folks know that those funds are going to be allocated if they turn in the proper form and do the things that they've generally done in the past. So that gives them some stability, and it gives our budget stability. We know that this is the amount of funding that's going to go out and in those amounts. Now, there's some slight heartburn there about Section 1. Section 1 can go away if you don't want to ever allocate more than is here stated. So I sort of threw that one in there as just in case, but I mean, it would just stop after not to exceed the herein specified amounts, period.
Wait, sorry, Judy, I don't totally follow you. Can you say that again?
So Section 1 says, Village Council agrees to contribute grant funding to the below-named entities in amounts not to exceed, unless in receipt of a request which shows need, and then that amount has to be approved by the finance director and then by a vote of council. That last part can be taken out if you don't want that follow-up heartburn. Throw it in there in case.
Yeah. I don't mind that. Council, do we?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still comes back for approval.
Yep.
Yep. Are you clear on that, Kevin?
So I just wondered, so I'm clear on where the funds go for the first 4 events. Holiday in the Springs, what is that funding? How's that directed?
Don't think we've ever paid that.
Okay, I thought that was new. So do you,
I don't anticipate it being used even this year,
okay.
but it's there just in case.
But it would there would need to be a request. I mean, we're not
Correct.
just throwing money around.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, if there's something we can do to support downtown businesses that makes sense. But I guess when I think about the others, it's speakers and so, okay.
So,
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask for your.
Go ahead.
Say. No, you go ahead.
no, so you're saying, because that was the only new one, so I was just wondering, so you're basically saying, hey, it's a thing we're doing regularly, but this is still somehow different, but we haven't put money toward it before, right? And you're saying we don't even anticipate doing it again, so then why put it here?
It was a request at one time, so that's the
Okay.
reason why I made a list.
Okay. And
Request that
the,
was made, it didn't come back.
okay. And then just remind me, so like the street fair, anything that's not here, why are things not here then?
They are already in the budget for labor. They're not checks that are given out for their internal costs, so we put them in the labor because they're going to happen. We just, instead of writing a check and giving it to them and having that, we just put it in the labor.
Okay, so none of these are labor.
Correct.
This is like giving them a check to do something with to make the event possible.
Correct.
Okay. Because even like, did we do that with Yellow Springs Pride?
Yes, we have. We have, and we also have done it with labor.
So Kevin, you didn't seem to be clear on section 1 to Judy's point.
Yeah, I didn't totally follow, but I also didn't think I cared very much. I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, we're going to have to talk about it at some point.
Right.
Is your point?
You're right.
Devastated by your
Sorry. I just,
Devastated.
like one way or the other, we're going to come back. Is that what you're saying?
I am
Just either in the
Well,
document or
you
not?
either have to or you won't, but if you do, there it'll be. And
I
you will
am-
say, yep, I'm willing to do that.
I am hard pressed to comment. So,
If I talked every time I didn't care very much, we'd be here a really long time.
well, so thank you for wanting to contribute to our leaving here in a record time this evening.
You're welcome.
Sure. So I think we're, for the most part, clear on this, that, these are items that we do care about and support to one degree or another, and these are the typical amounts that we've seen coming from these entities in the past, and I would support keeping it as not the heaviest lift in the world to just move forward with this on the premise that most of us have said, it'll come back again as needed.
So the one thing I would maybe suggest is that we could take Holiday in the Springs off. Doesn't mean they can't come ask.
Right.
But it also means we don't really know how you're going to ask or what you're going to ask for because we haven't seen it before.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we remove Holiday in the Springs. Again, understanding that anyone can come back with an ask when it's relevant. So yeah, I'll make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion about potentially removing Holiday in the Springs off of this list? Okay. All those in favor of making this modification to the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Not hearing anything. That motion to modify the resolution has been made. We have on the table still a motion and resolution for the overall, motion and second, I'm sorry, for the overall resolution. Is there any more discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the modified version of this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, the motions have passed. Thank you very much for your participation in that. All right, Judy, if you could read by title only, Resolution 2025-16.
This is declaring certain village-owned property as surplus.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second?
All right. I sense, Amy, that was like your clarion call that I'm ready to stand up.
Yeah, and then we were trying to decide who this was. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good evening. So as we talked about, I believe, last meeting, there is property at the CBE that is being marketed by a real estate agent owned by the village and up for sale. In the codified ordinances, specifically 206.02, sale of surplus property, there's some language in there about how we need to make public notice of a sale in newspaper of general circulation within the village once a week for 3 weeks before acceptance of any offer, with the possibility that an offer might be coming. This is your approval to run that publication so that if an offer does come, discussions can be had and we can move forward with the negotiation, and then ultimately the approval of the sale will come to council.
So, I mean, from a timing perspective, could we have announced that this property is considered surplus because there is no planned public need for it? We could have done this any time.
No municipal purpose. Yeah.
After the point that we decided we wanted to market it. It's not necessarily driven by current interest or potential interest.
The fact that there's current interest or potential interest is what triggered me to think about this requirement in 20602. I will say this ordinance is a bit unwieldy. We touch it not regularly, but we do touch it from time to time. It applies to both, sort of conflates the two, of the sale of surplus real property and the sale of surplus personal property owned by the village. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through, as there should be for a public entity to sell either real estate or personal property. But in this particular circumstance, if you follow the ordinance, then it says that the sale of such property shall be subject to the following conditions. Some of them are relevant only to personal property and not real property at all. But this one, public notice of the sale, including the method, giving a newspaper, that would apply in my interpretation of both real property and personal property. So then we've had some discussions, staff and I have had some discussions about, well, public notice of the sale, capital T, capital S. I think it's in the greater interest to read it more broadly and notice the sale without a particular buyer in place, because then that leans more towards, I think, the intent of this ordinance, which is to notify the public that a sale might be coming and that this property is for sale. This ordinance hasn't been touched it was drafted 30 years ago, it was revised some 20 years ago, and it could use some tweaks to make it a little bit more user-friendly, and that is something that we will happily add to the list of things that we could tweak to improve in our code. But yes, did that answer your question? Long-winded way of answering it.
It did, period, but you're referring to 2602 when you're talking about the ordinance.
206.02.
206.02.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know what I just did there with that. So good. That I appreciate that. So the resolution itself is good as it stands then.
Yes.
Okay. Any other?
Well, I guess I do want to follow up. So I follow what you're saying about capital S and small letter s, but I don't understand what the sale is in that, because, I read following a declaration, which I thought is what we were doing with the resolution. Then it talks about the sale of such property. So what is the sale then? I mean, if we don't even have an offer, I don't.
The sale of the property.
Yeah. Okay, so then the other thing so I read that, and the sale seems like there'd be an offer, and then I look at E, which says no offer to purchase said property is accepted for 30 days from the first day of publication. So I guess I feel like all this publication is based on an offer to purchase property. But if, it's not that expensive, I guess, to advertise it. I just don't see
Yeah, I don't read it that way. I read it as noticing it before, that the offer isn't the triggering event that causes us to notice it, that the triggering event is that we're going to sell the property. And again, if we limit it to there being an offer to run the ad, then I'm not sure what the intent of having that language in there is to begin with, because this is running notice that the property is up for sale, right, in a newspaper of general circulation. It's a little outdated, I think, some of the terms of this ordinance, but I prefer to read it in from a more broad perspective, to give more notice, ample notice of the potential sale of village-owned property versus more restrictively to only notice it once we have an offer in hand.
So then we're going to run this
3
in
times.
perpetuity?
No, once a week for 3 weeks.
Okay, but we will then, when there's an offer, have to run for 3 weeks and wait for 30 days.
No, we will not run it again. We'll run it once. Unless, I should put a pin in that. If there's no offer
I mean,
that
it definitely
comes through-
says in E.
Yeah, no offer shall be formally accepted until 30 days has passed from the first date of publication. So let's say we run it in, April 1, we run it all three weeks of April, and then an offer comes, as long as 30 days have passed from April 1 or whenever it runs the first time, then we're sufficient. I shouldn't say we'd never run it again. If we run this notice, no offer comes to fruition, and a certain period of time passes, I think it would be appropriate to run it again.
And this is awfully academic, right? Like,
Yes,
we've had a
100%.
for sale sign on the property for a year and a
100%.
half that's
Yes.
20
You have
feet
language in
by-
your code that requires you to run notice in a
Okay.
newspaper. Yeah, awfully academic, yes.
We're talking about a thing that everybody knows is for sale. Okay, I'm just making sure there wasn't something I was missing.
100%, yes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, you talked about or alluded to a similar resolution that we do every year, I think, pretty regularly.
Well, it's not similar, really. I mean, we just declare surplus property for all of our surplus property, so we can sell it on eGov.
Oh, that's different, actually.
Gov deals.
That's a requirement out of the revised code, that if you're going to use an online auction to sell surplus property, you have to pass a resolution once annually to allow you to use Gov deals or, yeah.
So, and I don't mean to be flippant, Brian, can you help me understand, like, why does it, because I'm understanding this as, like, it's sort of like we do this once for the property, and then once it's done, we've said it, and the main way that we're communicating to the public that we're doing it is by talking about it in council, by putting up a big for sale sign, by that there's lots of discourse about it, and that you would basically be doing this process one time, and that functionally it sounds like we might want to look at it, because how functional is it when we have all these things happen?
I don't
Can you
have
tell me what I'm
right. I don't have a problem with this resolution, except, I mean, when I first read following the declaration that it's surplus, right? We all agree that has to happen and that needs to be out there, and I think the resolution does that. But I think this resolution or this code is about saying that when we're going to sell property, we're supposed to let the public know about that property and give 30 days for that to be out there. So I feel like we have to do that anyway. And again, I think it's because E, no offer to purchase shall be accepted until a minimum of 30 days from a publication. So I guess I can see how it could be read that, like, we do it now and then 5 years later we sell something. But I think the meaning here is to let people know, hey, this property is up for sale.
And I am not advocating for run it now and sell it in 5 years. If
Right.
we run this now and no offer comes to fruition and some time goes by, I'm thinking probably 6 months or more, we would run it again. But this would allow us to be prepared if one does come. And back to, I believe your point of, we talk about it here and there's a sign on the property. You've also advertised it through an agent, and it's online in several different forms, I think. So, yes, the notice that the property is for sale has been done rather extensively. We just need to be sure we check the box under our ordinances.
All right, sounds good. I like, Gavin, that academic label being applied to that. Just
Right, and I'll just say, I don't think it's academic. I think this is about notifying folks that, hey, this is up for sale, and so you better, if you have a problem with it. But, we can get there when we actually have an offer and decide what to do. How about that?
Indeed, that would be a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I agree.
We will cross that bridge when we come to it. So, we have a motion and a second for 2025-16. All those in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion has passed. Thank you very much. Now on to the reading of Resolution 2025-17. Judy, if you could do that by title only, please.
This is authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with Smith, Meyer, and Webb Company LPA for prosecution services.
Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved?
Second?
And, yeah, you guys are playing iTag again or
She's
something?
totally avoiding me.
She's like...
Sorry, we have a couple of things going on in real time,
Yes.
happening as we
Yes, we
speak
do.
right now. All right. So where are we here? We are at prosecution services?
We are.
Yep.
So this, again, this is something we've had several conversations about in recent meetings. The village is looking to enter into an agreement with Smith, Meyer, and Webb, specifically a prosecutor by the name, an attorney by the name of Mark Webb, to serve as prosecutor for the village. The contract spells out his rate, which is, I believe, $8,333 annually, which is intended to be a third of $25,000, which is the total amount that Mark quoted to take on prosecution services for Yellow Springs, Cedarville, and Jamestown. Before the meeting tonight, Brian asked me a question about the contract, and I had a chance to reach out for Mark. He did respond, Brian. There's a paragraph in the contract about expenses and has some language about court costs. The intent of the contract is that not to bill the village for out-of-pocket costs associated with prosecution. So if those costs were to be billed directly to the village, that they would be covered by this contract. But we've got some similarly, what's our language, Judy? In a form substantially similar to. So I can clean up that language before we execute the contract.
So to clarify, the intent is that court costs are included, is that?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why I said that second to last sentence seems to be missing something, so good.
Well, there's that's probably the same sense I had an issue with. And I think I'm highlighting those costs are included in the monthly fee.
Yeah, well, at a minimum, a comma instead of a period, but.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand that, I mean, we're not, well, anything that Webb spends is on Webb. Now, that's my reading of the first part of the paragraph that I don't have right in front of me. But then it says that court costs would be charged to the village. I'm paraphrasing. But then that last sentence says those costs are included in the monthly fee.
Right.
Is that
That is the intent.
the 83 divided by 12, that monthly fee? Or
Yes.
could that fee be higher based on actual time in court that month?
Not without a written agreement between the parties. Oh, and that section is only in reference to court costs, not time in court. Court costs is literally the cost that the court assesses to a particular case.
Yep.
So no, the monthly rate will not increase unless otherwise agreed to by the parties in writing and in advance.
Okay. So, and then while you're there, please, in Exhibit A, I wrote notes, I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but under number 3, victims advocate, seems like there was, as I read the document, I was trying to get the rationale for why SMW, which is the name of the firm, was used sometime, and then Webb used sometime. So right there at number 3, victims advocate, Mark is not going to be responsible.
Correct. That is not the prosecutor. Mark Webb will be the prosecutor. The victim advocate will be a different person.
So is there a reason why we said Mark? Here's my thing. Did they use Webb there instead of SMW because SMW could be engaged
No.
for victim advocacy?
Looks like
Because
that's just
Webb's the individual that will be doing it.
Yeah, that's just a drafting matter. I can change that back to SMW.
Yeah, I know the difference between the two. I'm just saying why we use Webb there instead of SMW. Yeah, I mean, if it was intentional, I wondered, not Mark, but the rest of the firm could be
No.
engaged.
No.
Okay. All right, those are, I think, the notes I had. Any other questions, comments for this resolution? Nope. Yep. Yep.
So two things. So one, the So we don't need to do an RFQ?
No, not for legal services.
And we're making this choice because they're already kind of doing it, and this is just, now we have to pay?
He is already in the court.
Yep.
Prosecuting for the city of Bellbrook and doing some cases for the city of Xenia.
Yep.
And when I say he, I should clarify, I think this is in the memo, it's him and other attorneys in his firm.
Right.
But they cover prosecution in that court. The court administrator will be able to schedule the Yellow Springs cases in such a way, Cedarville and Jamestown as well, in such a way that their time can be used,
Right.
productively.
And
So
I thought that sounded great as like
Yeah.
a reason why this is a good fit. And then how does the flat fee, how did that get decided? Just a projection based on, like, we've had a pretty steady like usage of
Pulled the numbers from the court of the number of cases for the villages that have been in Xenia Municipal Court and based his proposal on that.
Okay. Will there be some kind of tracking so like that we can anticipate if things are going to change with this fee, or?
How do you mean?
I guess I just wonder, I mean, or will we just kind of know that there are significant changes happening that?
At the risk of sounding tongue-in-cheek, lawyers occasionally raise their rates, so that could happen. This contract is for a year, so it won't happen in that time. I would imagine that if there starts to be a concern on his part, we will hear from him and know if we should be expecting some type of increase or changing.
And it'd be easy enough for them to, like, even if we're not getting regular reports, it'd be easy enough to look at that and
Yeah, the
to
court keeps
justify.
track of every jurisdiction and every case.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they're able to run those numbers.
Yeah.
And we should have some degree of confidence that Cedarville and Jamestown are already pretty far along into these conversations as well.
Yes.
So them having to pay 1/3 of this.
That is my understanding, yes. That wasn't me, but it happened, I think, between the police representatives who had those conversations.
Okay.
So then the only other thing is, I'm not sure this is why Laura Curlis is here, but Kevin, as you know, Laura did a lot of work on when we were talking about prosecutorial services. So I know we normally wait till citizen concerns, but I'd like to hear if there's anything Laura has to add, given her history with the village and all the work she did before. So
I will allow it. Come on up.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. When you start to delve into the financing of county-wide jurisdiction municipal courts and their operation, even the Supreme Court of Ohio had a hard time figuring it out. So in 2015, the Supreme Court of Ohio issued a report on the financing of courts, and they basically said what I just said, because the courts at that time were not required to supply to the Supreme Court what are their sources of funding. So it's important to know, municipal courts are weird. So you first have to know, even though it's called Xenia Municipal Court, it has county-wide jurisdiction. That means by Ohio Revised Code, a lot of their funding comes from us as county taxpayers already. So their employees are supposed to be paid through the county budget. The judge is paid partly from the state budget and from the county budget. Operational, so the employees, you have a law director who's responsible for prosecution in that court. So if every township said, we're not sending you a dime, and I've been a prosecutor, guess what? It's on my plate. Those cases come in, they don't go away, they come in, it's on my plate as the hired law director for that court. So I think one thing that I encourage you to really drill down on before you enter into this contract is, are your taxpayers, the citizens of the village, already paying for these services? Should not we be getting those services from the law director's office? Now, operational costs are a different thing, but you know, you have to be careful about which costs they're moving from the employee category to the contractor category. You know, so why don't you have an employee who does the prosecution? We did that in Wilmington. We had an employee in the law director's office that served the municipal court, also a countywide jurisdiction. So revised code 1901.026A, that has to do with the proportionate share that each jurisdiction, sub-jurisdiction pays on operational costs. So that's one question. Are labor services part of operations? I don't think they are. I think those costs should probably be coming from the county. A couple other things to point out. The contract itself, I would really define misdemeanor under 2A. Whoever you hire, if you do go this direction and feel like the citizens should bear this cost, small though it is, people, I know that I'm talking about $8,333 here. It's more the principle of the thing, though, I think. But it says that this person will represent the village in cases brought before the municipal court for misdemeanors, whether classified or unclassified. So I was, you know, looking at the mayor's court report for January and February, and, you know, I'm not sure, you know, we do things our way, but just what this contract says is all misdemeanors, which I know that's not going to happen. So probably it'll be that category of some DVs and OVIs, or all DVs and OVIs. Victim advocates, same thing. We, the citizens, are entitled to the victim services that are provided in the county courts. Why are our victims, hope we don't have any, but if we do, they should get those services from those same trained people. So I don't believe we should be paying for that at all. So anyway, those are just some of the things that I saw when I looked at this and delved into. I've delved into municipal court funding before. I just wanted to point out it's murky, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. So you may want to just investigate that a little more, like, are we double paying?
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. And I know we said your name, Laura Curlis. I'm not sure if you introduced yourself. Yep, but yes, we are happy to have you as a member of our village. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, duly noted. Everything we got? Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
sorry, so what, should we talk about any of that, or?
Everything that Laura brought up,
Yeah.
Amy and I and Paige, we have beat down every door. And just so you guys know, on the Dear John letter, county commissioner or county administrator was the top signature. Laura's spot on the money. It was the county administrator and then the Xenia law director.
So a few thoughts that I have from the perspective of whether the county is responsible for providing municipal court prosecution for us. They are not. In fact, every municipality in this region, for the Bellbrook, Beaver Creek, Fairborn, Riverside, they all hire independent attorneys in contracts like this to provide their legal services. And from the victim advocate perspective, we're still working through that. More to come on that, and you'll be the first to know as we get that figured out. What else am I missing?
Tax dollars, like if we're already paying for it.
It is our responsibility to provide for our prosecution. And you can do that. The way the revised code reads is that it's your village law, your law director, or your solicitor to do it. We've discussed that. I don't know that it would be financially advantageous to the village to pay myself or someone else at Bricker to do that at our blended rate. This is going to be far more.
Well, and 705.11 covers that, right? I mean, it allows you to have assistants, basically.
Oh, well, yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, I mean, it's very common, yes, thanks, Brian, for a law director to have someone else. It's actually very rare for a law director to also serve as prosecutor.
So what do we do about the 2A?
on the other potential offenses? I mean, are we going to have to hire another attorney to handle those?
On the 2A, read that out
The
to me.
misdemeanors. So in 2A, it says that they'll represent the village in cases brought before Xenia Muni for misdemeanor, whether classified or unclassified criminal offenses that occur in the village of Yellow Springs.
Which is everything that will go to municipal court. Felonies are not in municipal court. Any felony prosecution is provided by the Greene County Prosecutor's Office.
So that's going to include OVIs. You said DVs also?
Well, so I don't know currently what's staying in mayor's court that's in the misdemeanor category. I think there's a lot. Okay, just which ones are going to stay here in mayor's court? Are we going to shut down mayor's court and send all the misdemeanors? Or we send all the misdemeanors to Xenia and the mayor just does the fine, the traffic tickets,
I see.
parking, that kind of thing?
So the chief could speak more accurately on what stays in mayor's court and what gets kicked to Xenia Municipal. But anything that does go to Xenia Municipal Court is a misdemeanor. So anything that isn't covered here by mayor's court, which I don't think there's any intention in changing how that operates, it's already going to Xenia Municipal Court. This is just a change in which attorney prosecutes it.
So there won't be a gap.
Oh, there will be no uncovered cases.
Okay.
No, there will either be things covered here in mayor's court, there will be misdemeanors sent to Xenia Municipal Court, felonies are still going to be handled in Greene County Common Pleas and prosecuted by the Greene County Prosecutor's Office. No, there's no gap to be concerned about.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for your input and participation. So, it sounds like this has been vetted to a large enough degree. It is 1 year. It is only $8,333.33, I'd imagine. So, all of that being said, council, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-17, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion has passed. Thank you once again, everyone, for your participation. Now to our final resolution. Yes, our final legislation. We have resolution number 2025-18. Judy, if you could read that by title only.
This is authorizing the village manager to apply for a grant from the Ohio Department of Transportation Improvement Programs for Yellow Springs Fairfield Road Systemic Safety Funding.
Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, Johnny, I'm turning my head to you.
I'll take this one.
Because Amy is not even.
Yeah, she's not even looking at us anymore.
Definitely not me.
Okay, this is the grant for, the ask for a grant to be able to be filed through ODOT for the safety grant for the sidewalk. There's the one that we did last year, we turned it back in, the funds were uncapped. They changed our match from 400 to 500,000 to almost $1 million, so we turned it back in. There's 13 pages in here. I went through and marked phase 1, phase 2. Instead of trying to get everything at one time, I've asked them to separate it out to phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 would be from Ridgecrest to Stafford Street to meet up with the Safe Routes to School 2017 project that would connect to Winter Street and would bring you all the way downtown. The second phase, if we was to get the first phase, we could go back and do the second phase on a later grant or a different fund, would be from Winter Street, North Winter Street to the bike path. So we have the 3 different options in there. There's basically, if we did option 1, option 2, or we wanted to do the full thing. I personally would rather downsize it to a manageable chunk to where we can do phase 1. It brings the people from Ridgecrest all the way down to Winter Street to be able to walk into downtown to the schools and everything else. it is also a smaller chunk of money to bite off. Instead of trying to get it all and trying to get everything at one time, let's do it in sizable chunks.
So are you doing the grant request in two pieces?
We're doing a grant request. The only thing that I'm asking for is your approval to submit for phase one.
Gotcha.
If we was chosen to give phase one, the other one would be coming back, we'd be asking for, I'm going to be bringing back a request later in the year to do an OPWC grant for the neighborhood of about $350,000 to take care of all the storm. That would set us up for a better option for phase two later down the road. But phase one is the most needed piece, I feel, from Ridgecrest to Stafford Street.
I definitely appreciate your rationale, smaller chunks and whatnot. I personally, and I texted you, I was just looking at, wow, if we do it all at once, we can save money, but that doesn't necessarily make it more efficient.
It doesn't, because there's a lot bigger chunks that need to be taken out of that. If we can get an OPWC grant to take care of some of the funding for the storm on the second piece, get ahead of the game, the application is less the next time we go for more. The other thing is there's only 4 houses, 3 on one block, 1 on another block, that this second phase would do. It would bring them down close to the Bryan Center, but at the same sense, your Osco got a $400,000 to $500,000 ask if you did it all together. So just trying to take it a little at a time.
Gotcha.
Get the most bang for the larger buck.
Okay, good. Council.
So you'll be shocked that I have some thoughts about the sidewalk. No.
I was going to say something about you. But,
So, no, so just a handful of things. Johnny and I talked earlier. I think to start, I guess I'll say I'm generally inclined to be supportive of the phase one approach, but would be interested in what other folks think. I just want to make sure that we're sort of aware of sort of how this fits into the bigger picture, essentially. So when we did this the last time, we talked about it was 500, then it was 900, and there was support up to the 900, and then it was the uncapped issue, where it was like, okay, that's the bridge too far, was the uncapped part. So on some level, we acknowledged that there was a bridge too far. In this case, it was 900, at 900 uncapped. That was at that point 900 that had not been budgeted and had not, we didn't have a source for it. So the question really becomes like, where do we draw the line? And the thing that I'm conscientious of is trying to figure out essentially how do we best use the dollars that we get from taxpayers for the best purpose, essentially. So the reason I like the idea of the phase one piece is that as I look at the map and physically drive the property, there's just not very many people that physically would use the sidewalk in phase two, essentially, comparatively. And so there's sort of the cost per, I don't know, yard, foot, however, of sidewalk is much lower on the Ridgecrest to Winter section than it is on the Winter to bike path section. And the bigger question that this raises is where do we stop with sidewalks? Meaning we don't have sidewalks in lots of parts of the village, and then there becomes this interesting question of where should we have sidewalks? And there has been an interesting set of discourse in the last few years that I've been around. There are some people who say, well, we don't want to take care of sidewalks. They're too expensive for us to manage, and maybe the residents should have them, as they do in many other parts of the state. I'm not saying we should figure all that out now. I'm just saying that this is part of this larger discussion, that this is where we struggle without having goals and where we struggle without having a thorough discourse in our budgeting process about what our priorities are. So this generally feels like, okay, we spend $137,000, we leverage, $1.3 million and we interconnect a good chunk of the village with a sidewalk system to create more safety and more connectivity, I'm for that. I'm like, that's a good thing to do. And there's still lots of other places that are not connected, and I think we have sort of a complex question of where do we draw the line, essentially. I think especially about our really hard conversations over the last year around affordable housing development, where we had some pretty significant challenges over should we spend $2,000 on things, right? And we had especially big conversations about whether we spend $100,000 on things. I support this conceptually. I think where I'm trying to figure out is where do we draw the line so that we have the resources for the things that, for me, would be bigger priorities. And that's the hard part about being up here, is that I like this conceptually, but we also don't have an unlimited budget. So I get a little bit nervous about us putting more money into more infrastructure when I think the bigger issue that we have as a community is essentially, we have great infrastructure, and I'm really proud of that. I think it's something we should, keep up. And I'm nervous that the people who are going to be able to afford to benefit from the great infrastructure will continue to change if we do not, at some point, focus our resources on accessibility in the economic sense beyond accessibility in the individual sense. So anyway,
One
that's
thing
where
I would encourage you to think about is that we are all disabled twice in our life. It's when we're born and when we die, right? And then there's a lot of people in between. And we have an aging community, right? So we're going to need those types of resources, and people are going to expect those kind of resources. But we also have a lot of people who have disabilities that live here that don't have access. So there's that. But I also think, to your point about having a plan, the questionnaire that will go out to the community on the strategic plan will help address this, and it will help guide us. So I would be in favor of applying. It's a grant, right? We can always say no. And then by then we will have the information. We will have this information from the community saying, this is where we want you to focus your efforts. And then we can use that, and we'll sit down and have a discussion then.
And to be clear, I think I totally agree with you. And I'm really only saying this just because we have kicked the can many times on actually having the big conversation. So I'm just sort of using the places where it comes up to say, hey, I really don't want to wait another year to get to a strategic plan, because I really want to talk about how much of our money should go toward infrastructure versus how much should go toward whatever. And so I'm saying I agree. I think we should, and again, with the caveat, I could be pushed, but I think I'm on the let's do phase one only commitment and then come back around. But yeah, no, I'm just using this little platform.
No, I know, and I'm just saying, and I would like to see. I thought we were going to have the strategic plan information soon on a recommendation on how to proceed. So, do we have a date on when we could expect that?
We'll probably be talking about it in goals.
Okay.
On the 31st. Okay, so I have a few things to say as well. First of all, I want to compliment this particular report because this is, I think, a great example of providing really good detail to make a decision. So I think that I really like the approach to say, here are all the details. Of course, you shared a recommendation, but not really in this. You just kind of said, here's what you're looking at, right? So I think that's great. And of course, we like a recommendation too. So the main things that, I'm seeing are match on doing it in one fell swoop comes in at about 7.5%. Compared to prior iterations, we were talking about 25 to 50% match. That's huge. Even when we split it up, it looks like match comes in at around 10%. And I partly highlight that because I do think we have to be really careful about going out for grants, getting them, and then not accepting it, right? I think we had a very good reason not to do it the last time when it was uncapped. But, to me, I think this is a reasonable kind of match, and if we get it, I'm sort of thinking, yeah, we really want to take that grant unless we don't have good reason to, because we could get docked in the future. I am assuming that Choice thought about the difference between connecting to the trail versus not in terms of our success?
They have a difference of opinion
Okay.
than me.
So here's, my feeling is, since this is highway safety money, I think we're okay with focusing on a segment. And I would also like to allude to, we'd like to, in the future, continue to get to the trail. If this were other transportation money, you get points for that kind of activity. But I think highway safety, it's probably okay to split it up like this. And then I did have one question. The document with Choice 1's logo on it, was that submitted to someone, or?
That was last year's document that
Okay,
they
just
changed.
preparing for this year.
They actually sent it to me.
Okay.
I'm like,
Okay.
we have to do something better than this. We have to phase it. So we've been going back and forth. That's why I went ahead and included that in.
Gotcha. Which I thought was good. I assume that's what it was, but I saw the 2025 date, and I just wondered, it looked like it was getting ready. And then my last thing is just, we want to double check. I like the reference to the school travel plan. I feel like this should be in the active transportation plan as well.
I believe it is, because they actually called out in their,
I didn't see it in there.
the area of the village of Yellow Springs has an active transportation need of a 3 and an active transportation demand of a 4.
And that's an ODOT scoring.
Is that a reference?
Yeah, but just so we double check, because it'll strengthen it even more if it's in another plan. So, but anyway, so I think, overall, I like the phased approach too. I think we're not, it's not going to cost that much more. And I actually think there's a better funding source probably to get from the trail to complete it anyway, so.
And again, I want to make sure that I bring this back, that we will be bringing a OPWC grant to try to get the storm taken care of as well. Later in the year, it's due in August, but we'll have it ahead of time.
Alrighty. I have been persuaded to agree with the phased approach. Again, and I was just looking at the overall expense and it being just a little bit more to break it up. But I certainly like a common sense argument about how to move forward. Is there any other discussion before we call the vote? And we'll reiterate that the village manager is asking for the grant submission with the phase 1 approach as being preeminent.
With all Brian's connected to we want to do the whole thing eventually, and the active, I think we all agreed on that too. Okay.
Yeah. And Brian, really that's critical, like you said, in advocating connection, relationship with another existing plan for the region, gets more points. So it's good that we do explicitly mention our active transportation plan. All righty. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Those in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. Thank you very much. We're now down to citizen concerns. This is the portion of the meeting where those of you present, physically and virtually, are invited to come up and speak on behalf of anything on your heart and mind. We do have a timekeeper clock on the wall that we'll ask you to adhere to with respect to the 3-minute time limit. We ask that we try not to do repeat comments if someone speaks before you. Please add something unique to the conversation. Council is not obligated to respond, and therefore we rarely do so. Are there any citizen concerns? Judith, you look like you were trying to be first.
I didn't expect it to go quite this long before I got here. Okay, that's the clock.
Is it? Okay, great. Okay, I'm Judith Hempfling. I'm here as the school board liaison to the council. We've talked about a couple of these issues before. There's 3 issues the school board would like to work in a coordinated way with the village council. The first is a coordinated educational campaign regarding safe storage of guns in people's homes to help ensure the safety of children and all members of our community. Drowning is one of the leading causes of death among children, both globally and in our country. Swimming lessons are often included in school programs in this region. So we are interested in having a conversation with about the possibility of swimming lessons in the context of a school program. For example, possibly during the time when Gaunt Park is open during the overlap of the opening of the schools in the latter part of August. And then the third issue, which is really a policy issue for Village Council, was brought to me by Board Member Bouquet, wondering about the possibility of including 6 to 10-year-old children in your Bryan Center after-school program. And I know this is probably a somewhat complicated issue to address, and one that I would think council would be involved with. There were 2 issues I wanted to bring to your attention regarding these possible joint projects, which is why I'm here. One is that the school year is rapidly drawing to a close, and I will need to be able to work with the village on these issues in a really timely manner, because we'd like to get it set up before school next fall. And then secondly, there were remarks in both emails to me from your liaison member, Gustafson, which I understood to be an accusation that someone, it might have been me, it was unclear to me, had behaved in an unethical and illegal way, i.e. making backroom deals, which is referencing corrupt deals by elected officials. She also noted hateful and unkind behavior in the body politic. I'm sure we're all aware of that behavior. I wanted to make a public statement to draw the community's attention to the fact that accusations of backroom dealing are very serious accusations. I would ask that anybody making these kind of accusations present the evidence when the accusation is made, because if they're not true, they're defamatory of a person's reputation and they corrode the community political life. And I would ask that such accusations be made only when the accuser can present evidence to counter that accusation, so that we would honor the idea of due process, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. When it is, okay, I'm just going to finish off saying when it's an elected official, I think we need to hold ourselves and our bodies to high standards, and I'm asking that the president of the council speak to your member Gustafson regarding these accusations. What's the evidence? If it's about me, I'd like to see it, and I'd like to have the opportunity to respond. And if it's other elected officials being accused of these things, I would expect the same fairness to be offered to them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith.
Thanks, Judith.
Duly noted. Amy? Was there another hand? I just saw the 2. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Normally I'm here on behalf of organizations or citizens within our community. However, tonight I'm here on behalf of myself to share an incredible journey. Let me take you back to when I was 12 years old, sitting in a doctor's office waiting room. That's when I first read about swimming the English Channel. I remember saying to myself, I'm doing that before I turn 50. Well, I turned 50 this June, and that dream is now becoming a reality. Recently, I discovered only one Ohio woman has successfully completed the solo English Channel swim. Tina Bischoff in 1976, following her first attempt in 1975 when she was pulled for hypothermia. No other Ohio woman has attempted a solo crossing since that time. This spring, I will be the second Ohio woman in history to take this challenge. But this journey isn't just about me. It's about something bigger. I created Amy's Swim Venture, a nonprofit initiative focused on water conservation and empowering women, especially when it comes to breaking societal stereotypes around body image and aging. I've been working with organizations in an effort to connect the public to conservation efforts and helping bring awareness to protecting our greatest resource, water. I recently spoke with the Environmental Commission, and I'm eager to continue collaborating with them and others in our village. In order to support women in our community, Amy's Swim Venture held facilitation sessions called Women Thriving Together to gain an understanding of what women need to feel empowered in reaching their goals. Upon my return, I plan to begin programming around what came out of these sessions. In addition, I will continue working with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and other organizations across the country on water conservation initiatives. Finally, I would like to express my extreme gratitude to my support team, 2 incredible women right here in Yellow Springs, Ohio, Victoria Walters and Vanessa Guth, who will be crossing the channel with me as my medical support and therapeutic bodywork /handler. They truly are my lifeline during this challenge. Right now, we are working hard to raise the necessary funds to get all 3 of us to England in May and back home. To that end, we have launched a GoFundMe called From Ohio to France, my historic English Channel swim. People are also welcome to make tax-deductible donations to Amy's Swim Venture at aswimventure.org for mission-driven activities. Tonight, I wanted to make you aware of this historical event, let you know you will see signs around town regarding our goal to get 1,800 people to donate just $10, and that we have team sponsorship levels available. Peaches Grow will also hold a fundraiser on Saturday, April 12th with bands and more. Thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to continuing to work with the Environmental Commission and others in the village. Have a great night.
Thank you, Amy. You go.
Laura Curls, Village of the Yellow Springs. I just wanted to follow up a couple of things since you've hired the solicitor. The reason we did work on it in 2017 was part of, as you might recall, the whole idea of restorative justice in the village. And so part of a way to do that is you have a solicitor, assistant solicitor, or prosecutor who can run a diversion program. So that's where there's all kinds of cases that come to mayor's court that would be appropriate for diversion, anything from dogs running loose to vandalism to, some criminal damaging things, trespassing, things like that. So especially with young people, in particular first-time offenders, they might get referred to the Village of Yellow Springs mayor's court diversion program. So this is why that 2A caught my attention, misdemeanors, as I'm going to give a shout out to the Yellow Springs News. I pulled up their 2016 2-part series on mayor's court. I recommend it to you if you want to review it, since the mayor's job is going to be up this year for election. But typical mayor's court hears dogs at large, or a number of drug cases that the court can hear, disorderly conduct, etc. Quote, we can hear anything that's not a felony other than domestic violence and a second DUI. And when this mayor's court goes back to the 1950s, when village leaders established the mayor's court, quote, this is from Tony Bent, to make the administration of justice local, to make justice part of the community. So I guess I'm advocating, really, you probably need a list that the chief and you all agree on of things that need to stay here, things that ought to go into, you instruct that prosecutor, you want a diversion program for this category of things, and try to also inform it with restorative justice principles. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Are there any other citizen concerns? All right, seeing no activity, we're moving on, so we're closing citizen concerns, as it were. And we're now going to special reports. And the first special report that we have is the end-of-year report from Water and Electric, and that's Ben Sparks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate this opportunity to come give you guys this report. I'm going to start out with the electric side of it. This was my highlight probably of my entire life, was the Light Up Navajo that we went on. If you flip that slide, Ben. Me, Tanner, Lane, Alex, Lucas went out there for 7 days, and we electrified 4 people's homes out there. It was just an amazing time. And exciting news with that is we're actually going back this year in the week of July 18th. There's
Are you
4.
taking the old man with you?
Yeah, we are.
Brian's not going.
But yeah, me, Johnny, Alex, and Lane are going to go this year. Just 4 of us this year. I've got all the tickets and stuff ordered, so everything's good. Another huge event that took place was the straight line winds on 228 last year. Took down 5 poles on Dayton Street. Those was AT&T poles, which I'll allude to those here in a little bit more. But we ended up getting, let me see, the Tip City, Piqua, and Wapakoneta had to come in to help us with that. That was a huge event. Power went out about 6 a.m. and we had to power back up by midnight that night. So that was probably one of the biggest events that I've had since I've been here. Next thing is pole changeouts. Village crew's done 37 of these this year, and if you was to put a price tag on it, it's about $180,000 worth of labor if we had contracted that out. So Village Crews was able to do that with 37 poles, and it helps with the infrastructure. New poles, just the sustainability, they just last longer, and when the winds do come, there's less outages and stuff. So. And then if you see that top left, that's why we do what we do. So we have a 5-year plan on pole testing, and they go through and they drill through, and that's what they drill through and they hit those pockets, and that's what equates into a replacing a pole needing to be replaced.
And what causes that pocket?
Just age, bugs, rot, just wood rotting.
Yep.
Average lifespan of a pole is 30 to 50 years. The way that they used to treat them was a lot better than they treat them now. They treat them safer now. But like our oldest pole, I took them out on a tour the other day. It's I think 1934. That pole's still in existence in town, and it still tests good every year. So. Yeah,
Trivia, go find it.
Yeah, really, yeah. So,
Where's
yeah.
All right, get ready for next year.
Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is power outages. We had an absolutely amazing year last year. We had 24 recordable power outages. Since I've been here, putting these numbers in APPA, this is our lowest yet. Now. The power outage on 228 that does not go into this because it was a major event. They call them MEs, and that's what APPA. If it's really long power outages from a substantial storm, you don't have to count it against you on your score. But and with that, if you flip that next one, this is our APPA report. If you see the Katy 74, that's 74 minutes. That's our average response time. From once the power is out, we respond and power is restored. The average in our region, I just looked it up, we just got our new report, is 135 minutes to that right there. So we are kicking behinds on that. So,
kicking poles.
So yeah, I'm very proud of that. We've received the APPA E-Reliability Award again this year. Something else I want to add, we received the 2024 APPA Safety Diamond Award. There's more to come on that later, but we did receive that this year. We've had 7 straight years of no time loss accidents, so that's huge in our trade to be able to say that. So I'm very proud of the crew for that. Next, the AT&T 10-pole change out.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
What do you remember being the highest number of incidents when you were like in the past? Because that was like 10 years.
Honestly, we've never had like real high incidents, like number-wise. We've had some. Probably 2015, we had we had an injury that took place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking outages or injuries?
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking.
He's talking
outages. Yeah.
Oh, outages?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, gosh, I would have to look. I'd have to look at the numbers. I think last year was 40. I could get, I mean, I have access
I'm
to
just
all the
kind of
numbers.
curious, like, but so it's been double that in the past?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Quadruple
Yes,
that, probably.
yes.
Quadruple, okay.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So what's changed to make it fewer?
Pole change outs.
Okay.
And tree trimming.
Yeah, and, yeah, more aggressive tree trimming.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the squirrels are still on.
Well, yeah, and if you see that, if you go back, if you see our number one outage maker, 40% is squirrels. So
Right.
that is the creator of most of our outages.
Segue into what you do now when you have a squirrel outage.
So anytime that we have any outage, we figure out what caused that outage, and the crew has to go put something on that line. Majority of the time, we have squirrel guards. We'll go up and put things on top of the transformers. We add cutouts to the transformers. I don't want to bore you with all that stuff, but we always implement something to go on to help prevent the outage in the future.
Gotcha.
Always. That's just mandated now. That's just what we do.
Gotcha.
So, and that's what brings those numbers down.
Right.
AT&T 10-pole change out. I don't know. You guys have been going down Dayton Street. That's still going. That started last year. So when that incident happened on Dayton Street on 228 last year, this poles was all owned by AT&T. And we had been on them prior to that, on them getting their poles changed out. And we worked with our attorney to finally move the powers that be to make this happen. That's the kindest way I can say it. So they did, and what you've seen is, oh my gosh, well, since last year, just pressing into them, and there's 10 new poles out there right now. We're in the process of swapping over, because it's very odd that AT&T owns poles that power's on. We just happen to have poles down Dayton Street that AT&T installed that our power runs on. So it's kind of odd. So it's a process, but we work really well with the crews and stuff. So if you flip that, you can see. So what you see is the poles with the orange on them. AT&T has to set them. And then if you see, we have to lay the primary phases out to fit the poles in, and then we have to go transfer all that stuff back. So it most definitely is a process. Moving on, 221 Xenia Avenue underground. This was to do some underground for a certain resident that owns that property to accommodate aesthetics, so they didn't see wires. And we kind of, since we own electric and water and sewer, we kind of all worked together and created a joint effort here. And you can see it was all in-house, and we created that, and the majority of that area is now all underground to accommodate that right there. We also participated in a touch-a-truck, which was also, so we had a touch-a-truck, and then we also did the safety village with the police department, and it, electric safety awareness, and that's some pictures of the safety village that we did. That's always a super good time. That upper right corner, we always pick like the toughest person there that thinks they're the toughest, and we give them a pair of pliers, and they try to cut the wire, and then I get the smallest person to get a big pair of cutters, and yeah, that was fun. Work orders, electric department did 376 work orders. That is just, there's so many different things. Street lights out, trimming a tree, just so many different things. So they completed 376 work orders on that. Other significant projects, September 27th, we did have a major storm that came through. It was hurricane force winds. Guys worked, I had one guy that worked 28 straight hours on that storm, and once he couldn't hold his eyes open no more. I stayed. And then we had assistance from AMP come in, which just worked out perfect. And then right when we thought we was done, AMP, South Vienna is an AMP community. So right when we was almost done, he called me up and said, man, I need your help. So I ended up going out to South Vienna. He helped us all day, so I jumped over and went to South Vienna to help him get South Vienna an outage. GIS and electrical assets, it's just an ongoing process. Anytime new infrastructure's put in, the crew goes out, we take pictures of it, set our GPS module on it just so we get good pictures and so we know where all the assets are. We add an additional feed to Springway Boulevard. That was a SIG grant. Johnny can allude to what that actually means. I don't.
Community investment grant.
Okay, I just do the work, so I don't. We got it installed now. They have access to electric out there now, so. This is what I'm really excited about right now, the infrastructure investments. We bought new reclosures last year. We are in the process of working with Encompass to get our switch station so this new center middle circuit can go in that will feed over to the solar field, which will tie into Spring Meadows, and just plan for whatever the possibilities that may be coming. We're just trying to stay ahead of the game on that right there. In which, if you flip the upcoming project, center circuit completion, my goal is I'm wanting to be August to have that implemented where that center circuit is up and running. So we can start shedding the load off of the west circuit, because as the high school starts coming on, they have a new 3,000 kVA transformer that's coming online, and we just want to make sure that we're accommodating everybody on that circuit. So had some meetings about SCADA. That's going to work in the future when it comes to knowing where outages are. All of our new reclosures that we purchased will have real-time voltage and amperage monitoring. I'll be able to get on my computer and actually see amperages when there's an outage. The new controls will actually give you footages back where the fault took place, and it'll allow us to get on outages quicker, safer. Smart meters, which I'll talk about that in a little bit with the metering department, but we're 75% electric meters changed right now. It's ongoing. I just talked to the metering department this morning, and I gave them a deadline of July 15th is our goal to have all the polyphase, demand, and regular house electric meters changed out. And the awesome thing with that is it's been allowing, so Rose will come in and actually, she gets alerts like if there's voltage spikes or low voltage readings, and then she can send me an email. We can get out there. We've made multiple fixes prior to an outage ever even taking place. So
that's neat. I've not heard that yet about the electrical service. I've heard about water in terms of.
Yeah, well, it started with the electric. Okay. It started with the electric. Really pumped up about this. 2 years ago, we started our own in-house / we're partnering with AMP lineman training. And with that, you flip to the pictures. I was able to go through last year, and I completed my 4 years of Northwest Lineman College. So I did the 4 years because all I needed was the book. So I went through that, and I got that, and I did graduate with that. And I've got two guys. Thank you. I've got two employees right now on our electric crew that they're going into their 3rd year of apprenticeship this year. They're finishing out their 2nd year of books and getting ready to start in their 3rd year. And they go to Columbus for 2 weeks for training, hands-on training. And then we received the safety award for last year, which I already alluded to. And then we received an honorable mention for Safe Route to Schools through AMP. And then those two up there, that's from us going to Light Up Navajo. AMP recognizes anytime there's mutual aid. AMP gives us those. And then the other one is for when we went to when I went to South Vienna and helped out. So Looking ahead, just keep pumping them infrastructure projects out, that the center circuit, and just keeping up with pole change outs and stuff like we have been, and just keeping up with the dailies that we always get into. Water distribution, that consists of two-person crew. Changed out 2 hydrants. If you flip it, that's Branham Lane. We changed those out more towards the beginning of the year. That same crew, prior to them starting, we had went out and assessed all the hydrants, all the hard-to-turn hydrants, and they've completed all those and basically rebuilt the guts. They take them completely apart and grease them. There's this process that this guy came in. We hired a contractor one time for one day to show us how to do it, and then we watched how they did it, so now we just go do it ourselves. So all the hydrants are completely maintenanced, so they're a lot easier to turn than what they used to be. And some of these hydrants are 30, 40, some of them 50 years old, so maintaining them is crucial when it comes to if there's ever a fire, and even us just ourselves going out to do our hydrant flushing. So water main breaks, had a great year 2024. 25 has been absolutely terrible. We had 5 breaks last year when we averaged 10 a year, but we did have a much warmer year last year. So with that, we hire fluid loss prevention, which it's a water leak detection. They found 4, I believe, non-surfacing leaks. So it's a company that we hire, and I started this 4 years ago, where they come in. I don't know what they do. They've got this little tool, and it's basically he can listen to the hydrants, and they emit a certain tone, and it's the sound of water. And he's got this correlator, and you tell him what size pipe and where the pipe is, and he can correlate and literally pinpoint exactly where the leaks are. And it's a lot of the leaks that is not surfacing, and they go into like the storm or something, or they're like if the water pipe is in gravel, the water may travel through the gravel and surface out somewhere else, and you never do see it. So they found 4 of those last year. None of them was real major leaks, but as soon as they find them, we get on them like immediately. Within, I think, 3 weeks, we was done with every one of those. As soon as they find them, the crews are out there and we're getting them fixed. So the big project of 2024 was the 2-inch galvanized water main replacement. We replaced 5,500 feet of 2-inch galvanized pipe, and we put 6-inch C900 plastic pipe in. We made many loops where there never had been loops, and it's isolation valves. And the crew, if you flip the next, literally about every 20 foot, the water distribution crew would go out in GIS, and we have sub-centimeter GIS, and we have thousands of pictures, so of every valve, every pipe, everything that's ever been installed. And then that's just our new way of doing everything here, where in 20 years from now, when I'm gone and somebody wants to know where that pipe is, it's there. So there's some more pictures of that water main going in. These 2 right here, that is like some before and afters. The top right is their finished product. So added onto that, Union Street water line, that was installation 314 Dayton Street, 6-inch line behind Keith's Alley. That was part of that
beautification.
Yeah. Way to put it there. 8-inch line at Cascades. They put that through there for the Cascades project. We didn't have really anything to do with that besides going out and GISing it. So Spring Meadows. I don't even know how many feet of water main that was installed out there last year. Phase 2. And then once again, the crew GISs all of it. There's some more pictures of it. Additional water department activities. So our water distribution team services all of our vehicles on electric, water, and metering. So every year in April, February, March, and April, those times, all the oil gets changed by our water distribution team. So we maintain everything that we have except our anything with air brakes, we take it to have it done because there's so much oil that we have to take care of on that. So they go through and they do a full service on the vehicle. So they also take care of the solar field. They mow the edges, which if you flip, you can see we like things to look really good. And that's to the left is what it will turn into, but that's what we have a machine that makes that gravel, tills that up, make for sure that everything looks really good out there. So
That's without adding gravel?
no, we don't add, no, we just.
Okay, cool.
It's called a soil conditioner. Yeah. And you just basically, because we don't use any weed killer at all.
Okay.
So that's how we kill the weeds. We
flip them upside down?
We till them up, yeah. And it works great, so. Yeah, and they cut the solar field. And then they just have variable of just all kinds of different things that they do on a daily basis. Recently, they've been going out getting pressure checks. They are working now doing the water meter change out, the water distribution, the 150 remaining water meters that's left. That crew is going out changing. It was all the tough ones, the ones that the valves didn't work and stuff like that, that the crews from NECO that came in and done them, the ones that they was like, oh, I don't want to do these, that's the ones that we're stuck with now. So it's slower because it's just a whole there's a big process to it. So future plans, we're going to get them water meters changed out. I think that'll be right around that July 15th range too with the water meters. The bad thing, the rest of them, the majority of them that's left is all in-house meters, so those will take more planning. So I really want to get the valve exercising program restarted into maintenance, but that takes lots of money to do that, which we've had multiple discussions about. Basically, when you turn a valve here, some of them have been installed 50, 60, 70 years and have never been touched since the day that they was installed because that maintenance never existed. And when you go to maintain those valves, they may break. And then if that one breaks, what are you going to do? You got to go back to the valve back here. What's that one going to do? So it's a big risk. It's really big reward once they all work. But in the meantime, it's just that what are you going to do when they break? So it's a huge challenge. We started 3 years ago. We did one section, but it was the south side of town, which it was newer, and it went, I would say it went well. We had 2 valves that broke, we fixed them in-house. It's just the process of doing it. And it's always a fear. Everybody, when you're turning those valves, we created a operating procedure and everything, so nobody gets in trouble or anything. Like there's 250 PSI that you're allowed to put on that valve. And if you want to go more than that, then you have to get my permission. And then I go out there and I'm like, yay, nay. So, yeah. And then I'm like, Johnny? So, yeah. We got 5,500 feet of 2-inch galvanized left in the village total. I'm hoping that we can get that eventually changed out with some grants. Yeah, that's what I hope.
So that is, you guys are pretty sure that's what's left?
I found some drawings, I don't know, from probably 1980 something, with thumbing through papers, and I seen where people had been writing those galvanized pipes up back in the 80s. So they was looking at changing that stuff back then. So I was able to take that, and then with the knowledge that I already have, and then our mapping that we already have, I correlated it all together and come up with that number. So 5,500 feet is, give or take, I would say 300 or 400 feet. I think I'm pretty accurate with what we have left in the village right now.
Okay. And I see on the different side, is that where you're replacing that with the 6-inch?
Yeah, upsizing, yep. And then looping everything.
Yeah, good.
And besides, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, besides it improving flow, we have to do it, right? I mean, the state's requiring
I don't
us to-
know. I think eventually it will be, because galvanized
Is now considered lead.
Yeah, it's trending that way. Right now, they call it lead service line replacement, but when you start reading a lot of the stuff on the EPA, they allude to galvanizing a lot. So there's, I don't want to say too much, but there's no funding or anything for customers changing out. There's no funding for us right now changing out galvanized, unless we can get grants like what we did on the last one. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I think we'll be able to do something.
This is a similar size, so we're still looking at about $2.5 million project.
Yeah.
So just back up on the previous slide, just a question.
Yeah.
Are you receiving good response from did you send letters out to those that weren't responding for the replacement?
Homeowners?
Yeah.
We are in contact with some of them, and they're scheduling them. We're getting a better response with.
Yeah, it's
our
working
staff.
good. Once we take it in-house, I mean, Rose and Travis know almost everybody here. That's a whole different thing than some stranger throwing a door hanger on your door and saying we're coming to change your meter out. So we have relationships with most of these people, so it's just a lot easier for us on these remaining ones, for us to personally go in, and because once again, Rose and Travis have been in every one of these people's homes reading their meters for years, so
That makes sense.
I don't see it being a huge issue. But over to the metering department, I don't want to steal Rose's thunder, because I think she wants to end up coming and presenting her own department. 75% complete on the water meter change out. We worked with Nico on that, 150 meters remaining. The tankless meters, that's electric, we already talked about that. Our goal is July to have those done. Really cool thing though, I'm going to steal a little bit of her thunder. So on the new water meters, every morning they'll go in and they'll get a report, and anybody that's flagged, like for high usage, they can read it, and she's got this belt clip monitor, and you can go out just near that meter, and it'll throw the data. It gives you I think it's down to the minute, and it'll cast all that data that took place on their meter for the past 3 or 4 days, and then we can make a phone call to that homeowner and say, all right, your toilet or something was running 5 gallons an hour all night long. That's odd. That's not something that normally happens. So we can reach out to the homeowner and say, we think that you have a leak. So we've been able to, I don't even know, she'll be able to give you the data on how many leaks she's found, but she can stay on top of it, and she's found multiple leaks. Just like that. So, and it's a daily thing. It's part of her process, her and Travis's process every morning, to come and take a look at the flags. So it's really good for the homeowner on that.
I leave mine on a lot in the summer.
EPA compliance, that was that lead service line. We're staying up to date with that. We're working with a GIS company right now. I would say within the next few months, we'll hopefully we should have a online portal to a web-based map with that data that lives in it. We have the data down in the billing right now. We're completely compliant with the EPA. And then I've got enhanced monitoring and training. Her and Travis have, so Travis had always read water meters and electric meters. That was primarily his main focus. And since they're remote now, a majority of them are remote. He still has to read the ones that's not been changed over yet, but his job is kind of integrated in more of an office role and in doing more data checking like this. And then he does a lot of the GISing and stuff. But that's been really cool to see all that unfold. So Bros gave me this data. That's what they done last year, 1,200 water meter reads monthly, number decreasing with the system. So that data logging, I was wrong, it's 90-day hourly reads, so you can break it down per the hour, not by the minute. So right there, 20 high read investigations monthly. So that's one of her numbers right there. And then the disconnects now handled remotely are meters, our electric meters. We no longer have to go out and pull the meters. They are right from the computer. If you're on the disconnect list, we can just hit the button there.
Well, it's also safety. They don't have to worry about trying to pull that.
Right, pull hot. Yeah.
Rose and Travis complete the remaining installations. They've been working just on the whole process of what their morning looks like, and just the whole position's changing around. They're learning that. Travis has a new desk down there with his own computer and stuff. And then just continuing with the GIS. And then last but not least, special thanks. You know, I had this and I had you guys first because that's what they told me I was supposed to do. And I'm like, you know what? I want to change it around. So I did my staff. Without those team members, none of this would be happening. So, but also with you guys allowing us to do it is also huge. And then Johnny is always there for questions, plenty comments. He can give me
some questions, plenty of comments.
But no, seriously, I think Johnny, he's a great leader and helps us navigate through from 11 years ago when I started to now. It's just like two different places on our daily, what we do daily, hourly. So, and it's all good. Everything it's amazing.
Side note, today is his anniversary, 11th year anniversary.
Oh, I didn't even.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that. The police department, I don't give them enough credit. You know, that dispatch handles all of our calls after hours. So, what's her name? I told you the other day, man, I wanted to give her
Daisy, or no, Kristen.
Had the baby?
Daisy.
She just major outage in just her calmness and coolness through that. Man, it's amazing. When you have a police dispatcher handling power outages, that's a bonus because they just have a presence to keep things calm. So working with them is amazing. And then doing the safety village, I love that. That was so much fun. Our crew actually getting out there participating in it. It was a great time. And then the town, the residents here allowing us, like I said earlier, the relationships that we have with people, we have to make for sure that we maintain those relationships because we may need to get in their backyard at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we don't need somebody upset with us and bad relationships. So we really appreciate all the people here. So, any questions?
Wow, that was
really good.
awesome. I really appreciate these reports coming in on a regular basis and where we get to see where the real magic happens. Yeah, I don't even know that we needed to be second on the list.
Yeah, the villagers can come before us.
Yeah, but I really appreciate it. And I learned so much, Ben, about what you guys really do, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the information. I appreciate all that you guys do. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say, but we appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had asked a lot of questions, and I think part of that is that you're obviously excited about this, and
I love it, man. I love my job. I love it.
There's a lot of great stuff to so I learned a lot more, and I'm really impressed with the stats. And I also really liked the presentation, and I think I said that to you before the meeting started, but I mean, just the way it was formatted, short statements, you filled in some blanks, told some stories. Yeah, excellent job.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Come back anytime.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. And congratulations on the anniversary. Awesome. I'm going to hand the gavel, if you will, over to Johnny because the manager's report is next. I'm just going to run around the corner real quick.
Yeah, Johnny, real quick, that SIG funding, where does that come from?
Say that one more time.
That SIG funding?
It come from Greene County.
Oh,
It was
okay.
the community investment grant.
Okay.
It was a grant
I was wondering, because in the report it said community innovation, but I thought it was
investment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how much did we get from Greene County?
$75,000.
Okay.
And we, the match was our in-kind work that we did.
Yeah.
So they matched what we was doing on the in-kind, so we was able to get that done.
Cool.
So, all right, so I don't know how I can follow that, but I'm going to try. There's a list of all the classes and seminars that I went to at the conference last week. I will say that the one that spoke to me the most, there's a date down there of March 17th. That's actually April 17th. Was Fixer to Influencer, making sure that I'm not the one that's fixing everybody's problems, but making sure that they have the tools to be able to fix it on their own as well. So, and you can see Ben does a great job at that as well. The next one is the new safety stuff that we're doing this year, taking safety to a new level. This is our new AMP safety team member. He comes and does our classes once a month. Kyle's been with AMP for so many years, but he is now solely at the village, coming doing the monthly meetings. And he had a statement all the time, safety is contagious, don't be afraid to spread it. So on top of the safety posters, we asked him if we could put that saying on there, and that's a picture of Kyle on one of the first safety posters. But the other thing we wanted to do is, when we get in our vehicles, you know, it's complacent, we're in a small village, don't wear your seatbelts, but we've got them now by the door locks to where when you open that handle, you need to make sure you got your safety vest, your hard hats, your seatbelts clicked in. So we're doing that, plus we got stickers for their hard hats to make sure that wherever they're at, they know they're trying to work safe. Because even though Ben's department is 7 years straight, we have had some other ones that we're trying to help and fix some issues, and there's nothing wrong with being too safe. It's like every time you wear a yellow shirt out in the roadway, you don't know how many times it may have saved your life. So those are statistics you won't ever know, but you'll know when somebody hits you and you ain't got one on, because that'll be noted. So the new organizational chart, Cameron did a fantastic job on that, making sure that it's been able to be read a little bit easier. So that's in the packet there. Lawson Place 5 and 6 should go online for the auction this week, or not auction, the lottery for new residents in that tenant. We're working on Unit 1 right now, so hopefully we'll get 2 more of them online, and then we'll be just down to 1 that's not rented out. Greater Dayton Area Managers Meeting, went there. It was the engineering club, never been there before in Dayton. But I was again surprised on where Arthur Morgan pops up. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, holy smokes. You know, hear them talking. I'm like, hey, he's from Yellow Springs, And he lived in Xenia, by the way, just so you know.
Really?
He lived in Xenia, but he president of Antioch and did a lot of great things in Antioch.
Although his last years, he lived where I live now, so.
Correct.
Yeah, so he wasn't just.
Yes.
Well, he worked where I was.
Well,
We're all there.
after solving our problem, he went to Tennessee Valley.
Tennessee. Yes.
Valley Authority.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Ultra Fiber did give me an update, Brian, it's in there. They have reached out and started getting some information for their engineering team. Village Broadband, I've been talking with Thor, he's still trying to get us some of those answers. But one thing I need to make sure is you cannot download copyright information off of the broadband, or you will be getting a letter. One's going out this week, and if you continue to do so, we will stop services. We've had some problems with people downloading copyrighted information. So just a heads up, you know who you are, you'll be getting a letter by the end of the week. So, John Bryant's Center's elevator, if you guys remember the old push lever to stop it, that has all been updated. It now meets the elevator compliance. It's all now got the beam, so even a small kid can stop it. If they break the beam, it automatically stops. Now, if you're jump over 6 feet to get into the elevator, you can safely get in there.
Yep.
So, but that is the only part that is not covered. Coldest, oh yeah, now I get to talk about the fun stuff. Glycol in our boiler system. We had a heating problem in the dead of winter when it was -5 out. We started noticing glycol on the floor in the boiler room, in the back boiler room. The heating system shut down, went into limp mode, so we had to put more water into it, get it treated some more. We found the leak, we put a band on it. We have to drain the complete system to be able to fix the leak. That was the first leak. We're like, hey, we're gonna baby this along until it gets warmer, we can shut it all down. We have been babying it. The leak is getting worse, but then all of a sudden now we've sprung another leak 20 feet away from it. And then just last week we sprung a leak another 40 feet away from it. At every one of them is at a joint or at a 90. So we've had them look at it. They're getting me a quote. The pipe is 3 years past its lifetime. It's a continuous closed circuit, so it runs all the time. And it's wearing the pipe out from the inside out, and it is 4-inch copper pipe. So they are getting us a price to come back and see what we can do to fix it, or to be able to replace it a little bit at a time, or what the cost, because as you can understand, it was the first thing in before, in the 90s, 92, and everything was put in after the 92, the duct work, the electric, and all this pipe is above all that. So it is not going to be an easy thing to replace as well. So they're working on a quote for that, and I'll be bringing that back to you as well. Reminder, I am out of the office, out of the village next week to celebrate with my lovely wife. 36 years she has put up with me, so I need to do so I can go for 37. So if you need anything while I'm out, you can get a hold of Paige, you can get a hold of Elise or Michelle. They can help fill in.
Real quick, with Paige, sort of, is that formal? Have we formalized?
We have not. Okay. I will let you know who to talk to afterwards, once I talk to Amy, and we'll get that straight.
Okay, good.
So, Sergeant Watson appeared at, or took Chief Burge's spot at the active transportation and talked about the bike busing and how the police department could help them on the days that they have bike busing, and the field trips that they have to go down to the Great Council down in Old Town. And then we'll be reaching out. I'm actually talking with Stephanie Goff tomorrow, so I'm going to mention that as well to her to see if they can maybe help as well. Let's see, the PD, Florence has a update in there. She helped a total of 59 people, and 39 of them were local, 2 were visitors or non-residents, and 18 are homeless or at large that she served. So the breakdown of that, we're going to start having that in there on a council day. It'll be in a monthly, or it'd be every other week in the council packet. And then you got the health renewal. Let's see. Brad's working with the Ohio EPA to determine where to drill the testing wells for our water. That is a grant that we was awarded last year as well to help cover the cost. Water loss, 31.48%. And I believe that is a high number. The first 2 are high numbers this year because of the water. I will not say it, but the water spewing out of the ground that Ben jinxed himself on. And I want that for the record. Right. That I did not say that word. He treated 17 million gallons in February. So we will know towards the end of the month how much we sold. But, actually, it may be in there. Yeah, he treated 17, and we billed for 6 is what it looks like. I'll get more information on that one. Ben also completed a fire flow test for the water modeling. So they took about 9 different locations of fire flow testing through the village so we can monitor the pressures and make sure for when we add other pipe to 6-inch, what that does to the rest of the system. So we're working on that. That's with choice 1 as well. The electric crew changing the poles on Dayton, he's already covered that one. Center Circuit, he's already covered that. He did a lot for me. He's already talked about Rose. Please respond to Rose and Travis when they are calling to get your water meters replaced on the inside. It will truly help you if you have a water loss, a water spigot, a toilet running, an outside hose bib open. And she does have the remaining 25 pits on the outside, 92 inside, and she has 42 large meters to replace. If you have been down the bike path, you'll see that we have put a new gazebo style. We had one falling over. Tanner and then was able to secure another one and put it back here by the women's garden on Corey. It looks great, and they, I believe, put a picnic table underneath of it. That one's commonly used a bunch. You'll see that in there. We did lose a tree on Galt Park during that storm. You would have never thought that tree was dead until it fell down, and it is rotten right at the base, and it fell over. So we've got that cleaned up. We had lost another 3 on West Whiteman over the weekend in the island there, and it was where they cut the road in. They tore all the roots off of the one side, and they're all so we're having Enid come in. They're pretty large Osage orange, so they're going to take care of them for us. Again, I want to say beloved community project, serving the mills. Let me make sure I get to date. It is the every 3rd Saturday at the Presbyterian Church from noon to 2. And they are working on the spring newsletter. And we are also increased 123 on the Facebook followers. And we're still at 511 out of the 2,000 residential services that we have. We did increase 8, but it's not a, I don't know how we can get the word out there, but that is the best way to make sure that you know what's going on in the village directly from us every week. So that is what I have.
Yeah, I don't remember. There was some period of time recently I thought, man, this is a great service, Civic Plus, and what I'd do without it, I'd be less informed. But I really do hope we can get that, those numbers back up. And maybe I can go, now that the weather is warming up, I can go back on the curb and be a barker and tell everybody. Because when we had the storms and the village was going around picking up trees, I mean, I had such a big pile. I'm out there working and everybody came by. Civic Plus.
Right.
This is how I know they're coming. So we definitely, I mean, given the numbers and given the importance of it, I think I look forward to the time where we have a greater percentage. Because, information can only help and hardly ever hurt.
That's correct.
Yeah. All righty. Any other comments, questions for the village manager?
One thing I wanted to highlight is the response to some of the things we heard at the last meeting about how we can better support downtown businesses. So it was in the manager's report that the Development Corporation, literally the day after, established a downtown business committee. And so I'm excited about that, and with Meg's role now to essentially fill that director position with the YSDC, I think that's going to go really well. But
First meeting was today.
yes, yes, I saw that you guys were meeting, or they were meeting.
It was.
And then Johnny, I just kind of wanted to highlight some other things that you've talked about that I know you'll be reporting on, because I think this is a regular thing we should be talking about, including more restrooms downtown and evaluating parking, because we've heard that could be an obstacle as well.
Correct.
And then I want to add to that, we have free Wi-Fi downtown. There are opportunities to integrate marketing apps into that. So those are some things I know you've talked about, and I want to make sure that I think that's a great feature, moving forward. How are we, moving on those kinds of projects? Okay, thanks.
All right, anyone else for the village manager? Okay, seeing nothing, we are moving on. There's no old business, and in new business, we have two items. Number one being the council information request process led by Gavin DeVore-Leonard. And then I have a note here that we're going to be talking about the work session agenda, which is on our table. So we will start with the council information request process. Gavin, if you would, please.
Okay. I'll admit I'm getting a little tired, so if I miss something, just jump in. I think it was sort of a combination of finance committee and then coming to agenda planning and feeling hey, we should just check in about this. I think I had asked for several things earlier in the year of hey, here's a bunch of questions I have for finance committee, and then it was sort of raised by staff, I think very reasonably, hey, every time we say something up here or we send a message to staff, they got to figure out how do they process that request, I've made a note earlier today, Amy mentioned, maybe we need to do a cleanup of this, surplus thing. Well, that would go, everything like that comes up becomes is it a priority? How long does it take? Is it a thing we should spend money on? So I just thought we'd just check in for a minute and sort of say what's happening now functionally, so that we're acknowledging sort of how we're dealing with things, and just kind of raise everybody's level of thinking, just kind of awareness around it. So functionally right now, for example, at the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, Paige brought up the officer thing, and you were can we look into this Dayton, I forget what it was, but a thing. And then if you're staff, you're going, well, does everybody agree with that? Or is that just a Brian one-off thing? So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to, when those things come up, if somebody catches it and it's immediately hey, let's get some feedback because it's a notable or big thing, then obviously we'll catch it in the moment. But inevitably, there's stuff where for whatever reason, because it feels like we need to move on, because that's opening up a big can of worms, whatever, that it might not get addressed in real time. So what ends up happening functionally is then it comes up at agenda planning, or Johnny starts engaging with people individually about how it should go. So I just wanted to kind of bring it up and say, hey, I think functionally we should all have a little more awareness of when we ask for stuff, it's interrelated with how we're spending essentially our time and money, and then to basically sort of formalize that, like, if something comes up that needs to be flagged, we're going to check in about it at agenda planning. But if it's a thing that we all need to decide, that we very well may then bring it back. And so you're going to start seeing, I think, some more things on the agenda, so that, and I don't mean to pick on you at all, Brian, but like using this thing about the, officer,
Right to counsel.
That we would then maybe bring it back and say, hey, do other people feel like this is a thing that we want to spend time on? Obviously, the context from Johnny has been that if we're asking something and it takes 30 seconds to answer it, they're going to answer it. But that sometimes we're asking for stuff, maybe I asked for a lot of work for them to do, I don't know, hypothetically, that they would, that's a joke, I definitely have at times, so that they're going to then flag, hey, and so I'm bringing it up because, and I'm kind of trying to say, hey, I know I do it, because it's nothing personal, it's not like we all do it and we're just naming, hey, let's be conscientious about it, and then have a process to name it, so that we don't expect staff to go down rabbit holes that actually are maybe one of our own hobby horses, that actually there's an agreement that it's a thing we want to put our time and resources toward.
I think that's wonderful.
Yep.
Well, I tell you, my former life, employees, we got to the point where we'd have to say to the elected officials, did the majority agree to that, and you're bringing that to me?
Exactly.
Because otherwise we were, our heads were spinning with different, directions, so to speak. So I think this is great awareness, and I'm glad you brought it up, and I definitely would try to be more mindful.
Right, I too appreciate it, but my question would be, or a question would be, my first impression is that we're referring to items that pop up here at Council Dais, as opposed to, I won't pick on Brian, I ate pizza too late, and the next day I work up with some weird idea, and I say to Johnny, y'all should do it. So, first of all, yes, at the dais, I think we all should be in agreement before an order is sort of formalized. But are we also thinking about things that we sort of bring up on our...
Definitely.
Yeah, all of that,
definitely.
because all of that adds to the daily work.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
Well, and at one point, I guess we could never find it, but I swear we wrote down something, and whether we passed it in a resolution, but there was awareness that, there were some projects that would take a lot of time. Only one council member cared about it. So we at least, recognized that before. And most of the time it was things that were offline like that, somebody reaching out and saying, Johnny, I want this, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, but we have this like council initiative process that we've talked about and never really used functionally.
Right.
But it's meant to be like a screen of like, hey, you have an idea, you gotta like do some checking. And so I think on some level, think about this as like just sort of saying, hey everybody, we're going to try to do a little better job of kind of staying in our lane, and it's nothing, again, it's not personal. I think everybody's done it in some way, shape, or form. So just naming that, it is a dynamic for staff, and then it becomes a dynamic for inter-council and staff council and clerk council relationships. So assuming I'm hearing generally positive energy about this, we had started kind of like writing something up, and I was just like, let's just talk about it, make sure everybody feels pretty good about it. But we had just like Judy started putting together a little flow chart.
It was a done flow chart.
A done flow chart. So if everybody feels like this is generally on the right track, we'll share the flow chart.
Mature
You know, I think this is all in keeping with what we've been thinking about, and then we'll have a system going forward.
Yep, agreed. And if you're talking about what I'm thinking about, there is a process that we thought of as being complete, and you're right, it seems to be rarely used in practice, but I think we are certainly all in general agreement that we want our processes, to be more formalized and not anything that's going to be burdensome or a waste of time for staff.
Maybe, you know what, we can just attach that flow chart to the back of the agenda. That way, if anything comes up, y'all can just be like, well, now, here's how this would work.
We'll
It's not a
actually
bad
use
idea.
words. We won't just throw the piece of paper down there and say, there's this thing.
Then we're not searching through email for it.
Yeah, because we do, yeah.
Or what about a massive poster over there? You know, like
A window covering type thing,
Yeah,
so
you could
it's
just
always
pin
there.
it in front of each of us.
like right here. Yeah. Anyway, okay, cool. So that was it.
Yep.
No, that's good.
Well, good. We appreciate that. Yeah, and it's Gavin. I've said this to you before. I appreciate the way you think, and it does help us at least be reminded from time to time that we could, be a little bit more formal, be a little bit more organized, be a little bit more accountable, with our time and effort. And I appreciate your always looking to those things. Thank you very much. Anything more on that before we move on? Okay. Alrighty, so we added the work session agenda, and each of us should have at our places this draft version of an agenda. Johnny, I'm going to ask you if you want to go ahead and talk about sort of how this came about and what.
Well, this is from feedback from different council goals and things that have been sent to Judy, turned over to Elise, and this is an agenda that we have come up with, just trying to get feedback on it before we start moving down the road.
Well, I have an item I'd like to add to this
Okay.
potentially.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if it would fall under community engagement and communication or not. So, obviously, we heard from Judith tonight, and I've sent through Judy all of my communications to all of you. So, when she first sent this email to me, it had a line in there about areas of cooperation between us and the school board. And to me, I didn't take that as just, projects. I took that down to the foundation of relationships and developing trust and responsibility within ourselves, within our group, and with their group, and our relationship together. And so much of what she said was taken out of context. You can reread it again. But my goal in that is I have heard, even before I was a council person, but since I've sat in this seat, people coming here and saying that they've lost faith in us. And then I watch the school board meetings and I hear the same thing. And I have a problem with that, right? We need to do better. And as a group, all of us, we need to do better. And so that's what I think one of our areas of cooperation with the school board should be, is having those conversations, dealing with, if we view things as bad behavior, holding people accountable for that. And we have, what kindness every year hanging up in the village of Yellow Springs, and then between the groups, that's not happening. So we have to walk the walk, right? And I think that if we start here, then we're going to improve our relationships. We're going to improve our role and our work for the village, and we can regain the faith of our residents, which is ultimately what we need to do. So that's what that was about. And so I would like to add that and encourage all of you. Think about, where you think that cooperation should be. And maybe you are thinking bigger than me. Not bigger, but, just like something more tangible is like, should we build a road together? Whatever. But I really think that as a group, that has to be improved first. That's just what I think. So I would like to add, that to the agenda as part of our conversation.
I think that fits under the first area.
That's what I was thinking. You might need to add 30 minutes to it, but.
Yeah, well, already we're just with goal setting, we're over.
Right, and we have a
budget.
second, and we could have a third.
Yeah.
I don't, but I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I definitely, Trish, appreciate those comments. I won't say anything more. It's not necessary, other than the fact that the relationship between the school board and council, as of late, has become more of an issue.
Right.
For years, we've had a council liaison to the school board and a school board council liaison. And Judy and I, over a year ago, this was pre-LIHTC and pre-everything, I was saying, hey, I see this. I'm looking at a school board agenda, and then there's a place for council stuff. And I said, oh, we're not doing that on a regular basis. But I think what LIHTC did is force some of that, and then we use those relationships to sort of parlay, if you will, into the active liaison roles. So goodness can come from that. And I'll stop there because I said I wouldn't say much. But yeah, doing things better is always better, if you will. Regarding the other items, I was just going to ask, are there other items on the agenda, the high level topics that folks want to maybe add to, expand on? And Gavin, you were about to say something?
Yeah. So just like from a process standpoint, so I know as part of our conversations around the like your goals, like in the evaluation process, we had started putting together, I think most of us, some of us, like wrote up potential goals. So are we gonna get that information beforehand? So we'll have some compiled, like here's what everybody said. Yeah, Judy?
Yep.
Okay. So then the idea is that, so let's just take this for example, that somebody says, hey, I'm thinking we should make a priority around, I'm not, sorry if I don't summarize it right, but intergovernmental coordination and community, whatever, how people see us. Then that would be like okay, that's one idea that would kind of be in the bucket of community engagement communication. So this is your attempt to say, all right, from everything we've heard so far and everything we know from staff and from council, here's some buckets.
Correct.
And then we would kind of dig into each one and go, all right, well, maybe there's 10 things, but do we want to narrow it down?
Correct.
And talk about that a little bit so that then we leave with pretty close to consensus, like trying to move, but also acknowledging there might be times where we have to do like maybe there's not a majority. That's the process you're imagining?
Absolutely.
Okay, then that makes sense. I just obviously couldn't read all that in this, so just making sure that I wasn't missing something. That sounds good.
So I thought these 6 areas captured everything. So Judy, I know mine came a little bit later, but it got to Elise as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I mean, so it covered, actually, I think I had one in each of these categories. So I have 2 questions. So one is, the message I got was manager goals, and then there was some confusion about manager village goals. But anyway, the message I got, and I read every email, and so I never converted mine to village goals, but I can. Like, should I do that, or like? And I guess I'm kind of thinking about what's going to be in the packet, is what I'm really getting at.
Yeah.
So
I would just put in my 2 cents. I was one of the people who was, like, I did both because I thought we were kind of conflating village goals and village manager goals. I would personally love it if everybody would use the same thinking, which is village goals. So if you're...
And it's easy to convert mine, I just hadn't done it yet. So, because it's the same thing, it's just a different way of stating it.
Yeah, and again, I think this is going to be a good conversation, and it's going to provide, like a relative foundation for what we ultimately work on in the strategic plan. But I don't think we can really truly finalize this until we have the input from the community. I mean, I think that's an important component.
And
sorry, can you say more about that? You mean like, so are you imagining that we would talk at this work session and then maybe have a draft and say, hey, like, are you imagining like a proactive process to get input, or are you saying, because I know as I've been talking to people just in the last few weeks since we've set this work session, I'm like, if you've got input on what our goals ought to be, bring it up.
Right. Well, normally, I mean, it depends on how we run the strategic plan, but we had talked about sending out a questionnaire to the community that would help drive our goals. And I believe Elise has started.
She has started, but we're trying to get goals, and strategic plan is actually one of the goals as well to get done. So.
Right. So it could be, I mean, we have this, we're going to do the work because we have to have the conversation. But it may be that, we hear, from the community that they want, I don't know, like more restrooms, and so that's their biggest priority of the village. And so then we have to alter funding or, for next fiscal year or, the order of things. So that's just something to consider.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit higher level. Strategic plan is going to drill into that more, and that's really where you're pulling more village input. I think, I would say most of you are pretty in touch generally with what thinking is in the village, concerns, to be able to talk about village goals pretty knowledgeably and pretty clearly what your own, things that you want to work on and priorities are. Strategic plan gets you to sort of the next layer in terms of, okay, well, this is something we're going to spend a fair amount of money on, a fair amount of time on, a great deal of staff time on. It's the sort of getting into it in a deeper sense. These, I think, are just super critical to get out of the gate on, because it's been 2 years. Since...
And functionally, I shared the notes. I think it's fine to put them in I shared the notes from we had a conversation about goals in '24. We just didn't ever land the plane of we talked, shared ideas, but then we didn't ever go do it was kind of like all ideas are good ideas, not is there a majority support for that? There were things that were rising to the top, I think, clearly, that informed work. We just didn't kind of land the plane. So I assume what we're trying to do here is get, as quickly as we can, get something down where it's we've got some agreed upon goals, and then definitely doing more of a process and more input for what I assume would be a longer term strategic plan. So it's they're two things that are interconnected, but that sooner rather than later we're trying to get to some 2025 goals document to just get back in that rhythm of doing something annually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And depending on timing of everything, it could be an opportunity to say, here's what we're thinking about at this juncture in time, because we're already going to be a third of the way into the year by the time we get anything together. And that could be part of the survey. But I agree. I think we can talk about it more. And then the only other thing I was going to say is I don't know what else we're going to get, but I know the Environmental Commission is going to share a memo related to development, housing development. And so anyway, so I'll make sure that's basically done, and then that can be slotted into the packet. So, but I think it'll just kind of help frame some of our thinking, and active transportation might have something too. They said they might. So
the only other thing I'll throw out is the more that there can be clarity coming into the meeting of you're going to need to decide this or that, the better.
I don't know that we can do that with what we've received to this point, because
I get it.
Everybody, there's not a completion to any one goal. It's generalized. So where do you put the number on different things? So, yes, we can have them down there as you guys sent them in, but there's some broad goals, and that's what we want to talk about, is how do we narrow these down? Infrastructure is huge. It can be talked about, but are we talking about potholes, we're talking about sidewalks, we're talking about water lines, we're talking about electric.
Paid parking.
So paid parking, donation parking, restrooms downtown. Because as soon as we put them in the south end of town for restrooms, they're going to want them in Keys Alley, and they're going to want them, restrooms is a big consideration, so we need to make sure that's what we all got to be talking about in the goal session.
Yeah, I guess I understand it's hard.
Correct.
But we're talking about in 2 hours trying to get somewhere. So just saying the more there could be hey, here's a big choice you have to make.
Correct.
And know that coming in.
Well, I think where she says gain consensus on the proposed goals and objectives, and you got to narrow them down to 3 to 5. Most of those pots have 7, 8, 9, 10 goals. So
even like flagging some of the things like, hey, this is a massive undertaking, this is a very small thing. We can only do 7 massive undertakings. My point is just, I get nervous that we're going to show up and have each of us having, sort of thought about the assignment differently, a whole bunch of data in front of us, and then struggle to hone. So the more that we could, I think it would be worthwhile to be able to come in and say, hey, here's some notable choices you need to be prepared to make.
Excuse me. Is it worth considering discussing what we mean by village goals, things to, and I'm just proposing this, items and efforts that move the municipality forward, not necessarily, what that means is there's stuff that council supports emotionally, fiscally, et cetera, things that staff is willing to put
I think at least can get you there.
Okay.
That's what she does, trust me. She's like,
all right.
it's quite amazing. And
We've already sat through 2 of them.
Gotcha. Well, so I'm good. I'm good with that. I just wanted to throw that out there.
But I will say, I personally don't think we're going to get this done in 2 hours. I want everybody to understand. We're going to take, and I've totally said this, if we have a time limit down, when it comes to that time, we're moving on, and we'll come back to it, or we're going to have to schedule another meeting. We can't just sit there and talk for 2 hours and we didn't get past the first thing. We have to stay on schedule. So when the lease cuts us down or cuts us off, note that it's not personal. We just got to come back or we got to schedule another meeting.
speaking of which, we're about an hour and 20 minutes behind people, so if we could just get a wrap.
I know I jinxed us by talking about
I knew that
I
was a
wondered
fact.
when you said that.
Well, at least we didn't have a.
Elise says to tell you will be receiving things from her, don't worry, and she knows, she understands what you mean, Brian. She's good.
So Lisa's watching?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Elise.
She says, no
Believe
need
me-
to talk about this anymore.
Let me just tell you
She's got
guys this. We're, half of staff watch every one of these meetings, just so you know. I mean, not that it means anything, but our staff is well informed of what goes on.
Good. Well, I'm happy that somebody's watching us. And thank you, staff, for being so engaged. I appreciate your civic engagement. On that note, that was our final item in new business. Are we good with moving on to board and commissions?
Yes.
And with respect to board and commission reports, I mean, I'm talking hair on fire. You cannot walk out of here without saying what you need to say.
Well, I do want to just say why Judy just printed this out.
Thank you.
And it's related to MVRPC, and so I did save it for this. So one of the things that's happening is there's a resolution at the State House now to say we should do away with municipal planning organizations like the MVRPC and all the other ones that administer transportation money. And it's part of this DOGE stuff. So they have put together a template letter and are, if local municipalities want to say these services are important to us, I think we get a lot out of it as we've, shared over the last couple meetings. So I guess I wanted to get a sense for whether we wanted to send something to our state legislators.
I thought it was well written.
Okay. And
Well,
yes.
I want to say yes, and I definitely, I presume this is, because it went to all of Miami Valley, it didn't name representatives.
Right.
But Brian, you can help me with this. As far as I understand, we got Senator Kyle Kaler as our state senator, and then our reps are Levi Dean and Brian Lampton.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I mean, Brian, technically not ours, but we could send one
well, it
anyway.
depends on what part of the county anybody lives in, I guess.
Well, he's completely out now, but it still would work.
Okay.
And then I would love it if you No, that's actually another thing, so never mind.
So is council saying yes to the letter in form substantially similar to, so Brian, we can...
Yeah, I'll give it a quick look over, and then, and it can come from Kevin. I think that's great.
Yep. I 100% don't mind. I've recently written letters to the reps from the Greene County Library Board.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think they expect to get these things, and I will endeavor to make it not look like a form letter.
Great. And then, yeah, that's other stuff I have I'll share later. But one thing I would like to do after seeing the note about Planning Commission's goals is, and we don't have to talk about it tonight, but I'd like to understand a little bit more, and I haven't had a chance to watch the meeting yet, but particularly, one thing that's always been brought up is we need to be careful about allowing commissions to do a lot of work on something that we don't want. And I'm not sure what's going on with transient guest lodging, but I thought we were pretty happy with all the work we did on that. So that would be my caution, but yeah.
Brian, thank you. I 100% thank you. I had the exact same thought when I read Planning Commission's goals, and I've tried to think, are we dispatching them to do that?
They have the latitude to do those things. They have the latitude to review TGL and bring it to, it would come to council.
But the
Just
question
look
is
at
just
it.
whether that's worth their time, you know,
Well,
so.
it's their time, it's not staff time. So they've agreed that they want to put the time and effort and research in without encroaching on Meg much, just to see is what we have working and is this what we want. They do, however, have two goals that do need to be looked at during this council goals session, because council needs to make a decision on a yes or no there, because that is staff time. That is money, that is stuff. And so those will come to you just for a yay or nay, basically.
Right. But again, the latitude, but it's also good to be upfront. I mean, because we have had commissions get pretty upset because they put in a lot of work, and then we said, well,
The
okay,
Planning
but we're
Commission
not changing that.
does have a little bit of a different, you know, since they're ORC mandated, they do have certain purviews that they can.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear a little bit more about it.
Gavin, are you good
What's thinking, but not right now.
about the Planning Commission?
Good with it? I don't know what that means. I mean, do you want to hear more about it right now?
Not necessarily.
Agenda item.
Yeah, because, I mean, you don't have a planning commission until after our next meeting, so I think it's okay to wait. But yeah, maybe just a brief update or something, I don't know. Just what you heard.
I'll practice what we talked about earlier. Does anybody else interested, or would it be helpful if I just talked to Brian about it?
I would be interested as well.
Okay.
I'm interested.
Cool, there you go. Well then, 5 minutes on the next agenda?
Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. Sorry to take time there, but yeah.
No, we're good. So that's board and commission. Anything else on board and commission? Boards and commissions, all right, moving on from there. We are not having an executive session. Future agenda items. Did anything?
Do we need to add the police body cam policy? Oh, is it on there already?
It's just on my list, but not on here.
Is there, can I ask why? I'm curious for other reasons about the body cam.
To charge.
Yeah. Oh, for
To be able to charge for the redaction of body
Right,
cam
right.
video. Yeah. The law takes effect April 1st, so we'll put the policy on, what is our first meeting in April? The 7th? And once council approves it, we can start charging for that time and effort.
Okay, cool.
Folks,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just, you probably saw the Dayton Daily News did like an expose on this, and like, you know, it's like so just approach it thoughtfully. It is an accountability issue that's like not a open and shut from my perspective.
You mean the charging?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
I mean, we could talk about it next time, it's fine.
Well,
it
you're going
opens
to have
up.
a policy in front. Give me a 2-second, before Judy throws something at me, give me a 2-second rundown of what you're thinking.
Is it, I guess, to me, it's not an open and shut case that it is obviously that we should charge in every instance.
Got it.
From an accountability standpoint, there is a value to public information being accessible. I understand that there's also a notable cost. So just, is there any way to thoughtfully split the difference?
There sure is.
Yes.
That gives me what I need. Thank you.
We did talk about that.
Cool. And just two things. I think based on the earlier discussion, we should do something about 206.2. And again, I don't feel like it's super urgent, but might as well resolve it at some point. Yeah. So that could go to Planning Commission first, or whatever you guys think, but I think it is, it can be cleaned up. And then the second thing is, I remembered that we typically do a charter review like every 5 or so years. I think it's been a long time. I don't know that there's anything urgent. I don't know we have a requirement, but at some point we should probably talk about whether we should do a charter review. So last time we did it was probably 7 years ago. But we could double check on that.
So 6.02, we're going to bring it up in agenda planning to talk about whether or not we're going to do a thing, because that's our new process, is putting it through a process. Yeah?
And yeah, basically, we put together a charter review committee, and then they look at it and maybe fix a few things, or if everything's good. But
It's an additional legal expense, and it's a lot of staff time.
Yeah, it'd have to go to the ballot.
And it has to be on the ballot, yeah.
well, yeah, you're right, it does. But I think, to me, it's just kind of discussing, I mean, it is a best practice. We were always told that we should do it every 5 years or so. We should at least talk about it, and if we need to do it or whatever, so.
This is where we get in trouble.
Yes.
We do like a quick thing. I'm just saying, so just to name it rather.
Thanks
So,
for holding us all accountable.
no, so like in this case, I think to me, this one feels like it would go into the like council initiatives thing. So rather than like, hey, I want to talk about it, which I understand, but could we use the thing where then you just write up the answers and then submit
I'm
a
not
memo?
saying I want to do it. I'm reminding us that it is something that we have done, and our past solicitors told us we should do it every 5 years. So I don't know, and so we just haven't thought about it in a while. So yeah, but I'm not saying we need to do it, or
I'm
I
shooting
wanna
from the
do it.
hip here and having not looked at the law and at 9 o'clock at night, but I believe that it's written somewhere, revised code perhaps, that it can be done every 6 years, not more frequently than that. And if there's issues that we need to address, then we can look into seating the Charter Review Commission. So if there's particular issues that council sees in the charter that we need to tweak, let me know, and we can go about that process.
Thank you for that. I'm attending, as a member of Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Committee, attending planning officer training, and I'm hearing potential stuff coming down the pike, maybe some legislation that might impact zoning, but I cannot remember if that applies to townships or municipalities.
Townships.
Okay, great, thanks. So I will not worry about that anymore. I too dodged the bullet from bringing something onto our process. But that's what I was thinking about that. So if it's not us, I'm good with it. Anything else for the good of the order?
Well,
And did
we didn't answer.
I heard
It's
a no.
going to agenda planning,
Yeah,
right?
well, we'll talk about
Going to
agenda planning, and Brian said he didn't feel motivated to do the process.
That what?
That you did not feel motivated to do the
I want us to
village
just
council
address, I want us to address, and I think ultimately, I mean, Amy kind of told us something about in the ORC, it says every 6 years. If we're not going to do it, I think we should just say why. So, yep.
You said not more frequently than.
And do we know the last time? Do we know it's beyond 6 years?
We should check, but I feel like it might have been 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say it hadn't been.
We've done it twice since I've been on council, is all I know.
There was one in 2013, I believe.
Yep, right when I started.
And if we did it again in 17.
It was Connor, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can find out what the frequency was, what the rationale was for the 17, but, I ran in 17, so I started in 18, and I don't recall doing it. But maybe it was.
Okay, could have been later,
Or
but yeah.
or I could forget. I'm a man of a certain age. Didn't want to be too premature. Are you satisfied?
I mean, we definitely did not just figure that out, but I understand everybody's frustrated. I also say, like, this is an agenda planning dynamic where if we do a better job of getting our minutes right, then we aren't at the end of a meeting stressed out about it. So we got some learnings and some work to do. We can do better. Cool.
Yep. So we'll hear about it again in agenda planning then? All righty. I'm going to slow roll this last minute. Oh, thank you. Anything else with the order? Not hearing anything? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned by